thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for making space. And thank you for coming to listen. And thank you for seeing me. You know, there's seeing you and there's people seeing you and activating that sight with their attention. And I thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, most of you know the story of this exhibition. I think the only person who doesn't know is probably Maria. But I started thinking about this exhibition with intention, this specific exhibition with intention about 3 years ago. I was reading the text of Songs of Lawino, and I was approaching it from I wanted to insert feminist agency in responding to the text. When you read about the text talks about it's Okot Bitek, and he's critiquing post-colonial Africa and its relationships with its former colonizer, and he uses the imagery of a wife, a mistress,
do where I showed you,
and a husband.
yeah,
I don't know if it's a mistress or she's married, new wife. It was a new wife. I'm not very, but what struck me about that text is because I remembered when I first read it, it was a very difficult text for me as a young girl and as a firstborn daughter of a second wife. Because the way Lawino was describing Clementine as a second wife, and I was thinking about my mother and how she entered the relationship with my father. Because for me, in my mind, Ochol was my father. Because he fit the profile. He left Dokolo, came to Mwiri to get an education, to Makerere, and then went to London. And then when he came back from York, radicalized, and he was one of the founders of Uganda Revenue Authority. His badge was 001.
Wow.
So I was quite disturbed by it because I was like, I'm in a space whereby I want to critique capitalism, I want to critique colonization, I want to critique all these little things, I want to critique this, I want to critique Pan-Africanism, but I don't know enough about it to even have this conversation. And so I was like, okay, how would I approach this? How would I even enter this text? Because for me, when I read that text, I was like, the way we are brought up to believe that there is no guarantee which position of wife will ever be. Life will just find you. If you're lucky, you'll be number one. But if you're unlucky, you'll also be number one.
Wow.
If you're unlucky,
that is poetic.
What just so kind. Naye woba oli unlucky, bajja kuzzaako. In Luganda. Kitegeera? You meet a man.
There are privileges of being number one.
You see?
But then there are also disadvantages eventually.
So you can never know whether you'll be Lawino or Clementine. Life will make you any of those things.
There's a fat space.
So I was like, so I asked myself, if I wanted to speak for Clementine, what does she want from me? Does she want a champion? Does she want to be saved? What does she want? And the last 3 years I've been trying to understand what Clementine wants me to say. And I still haven't figured it out. That's why there's no artwork specifically speaking to responding to that text. So how I arrived here is I was like, okay, I want to understand. If I don't understand Lawino, if I don't understand Clementine, I can try to understand Okot. How did he arrive at this story? How did he choose the tools he chose? I wanted to know what was going on in his life at that time for him to think it is such an issue that he canonized it into a piece of writing. So I went on this journey of trying to understand Ugandan history, and the first roadblock I discovered is that there were no books at least readily available to interrogate Ugandan history in the way that I was interested in interrogating it. So I was like, okay, what are the alternatives? So it led me to archiving. That's how I ended up in Iraq, because I was like, if as colonized subjects we didn't have the tools to write our own histories, does it mean we didn't preserve any of that history? And that led me to music, you know. So I started listening to music from the 60s, from the 40s, Kadongo Kamu, just to see how people were telling their stories. And then I started talking to my grandfather, my uncles, because all of them collaborated with the colonizer in one way or another. My great-grandfather immigrated from Malera to Kachumbala, and he collaborated with Semeika Kungulu. I didn't know this until I started working on this exhibition. Because my mom would tell it, but she would not tell the details. She would just say, you know your grandfather, he didn't like to wear clothes. So every time he was going for a meeting, he would walk naked. When he's about to reach the meeting, he wears the kanzu. But she didn't tell me that the meeting was with Semeika Kungulu and his other people. And then when I spoke to my grandfather, who's still alive on my paternal side, he's about 100 years and all that, like, how did you do it? He's like, I was a merchant. I sold cotton. So who was he selling cotton to? Because he was rich by those standards. He literally went and colonized the space we currently exist. Because I asked him, did you pay money for this? He said, no. We arrived here, there were no people. Which land has no people? There were no people, we settled, and now we are of here. And so I started to work on things piece by piece, because I had 3 anchors. I was thinking about learning African feminisms. What does that mean for me? Because yes, feminism came to us. For me, the first time I had the word feminism, I was like 24, already too old to be coming in contact with an ideology like that one. So, and I came in contact from an academic point of view. I think a workshop or something. And when you look at all these different ideologies that are around us, and allow me to say things like Christianity is an ideology, capitalism is an ideology, feminism is an ideology. All these are different ideologies that people sat down and they were like, yeah, you know, free markets, economy, it's good for everybody. He with might, you know, takes the plunder. And then feminism, equality for all, but we're talking about equality for all while some people are still property, you know? Let's have that conversation. And then while we're talking about Pan-Africanism, we want to be Pan-African, but we don't want to include queer people, we don't want to include feminists, we don't want to, like, you know? So I reached a point whereby I'm like, okay, if any ideology is interested in my audience, it has to audition itself to me. So I went back to square one. I wiped the thing and I'm like, I'm going to try and study each ideology now critically. Is it feminism? Is it what? Is it communism? Is it what? I need to understand what it means, because these ideologies have designers. These systems have designers. They didn't just appear. So I'm also interested in the stressors that make people design systems, make people design places of living. Like, what are the underlying foundations that provoke people into designing these things? And the first ideology I started interrogating was belief system. I was lucky. None of my parents forced me to be what I am today. Karibu, we're just beginning. It's okay, we're just beginning. Was understanding belief systems. So I remember asking my mother, before the God that you currently worship, which was the God your people worshipped? And my mother was like, our principal god was called Ateker. And Ateker literally means creator, overruler, seer. And guess what? Female. Not even male, female. So for me already that cemented something, that if we're thinking about God, the first person who's a god is the person with the power of creation. And it felt normal that their principal god was Ateker, a female. And when Semei Kakungulu and his friends, because Semei used religion strongly, that's why there's a group of Abayudaya. They're Ugandan Jews in Mbale. So Semei, for him, he was a true convert. And he did not just convert to Christianity. He's like, this is not enough. He went to Judaism, you know, studying the Talmudic texts and everything. So when he came through to Teso, he's like, there's no way a woman can be a principal god. It just does not work. So they co-opted Ateker to create Ateker. So today, God in Teso is called Ateker. Now, I will not wax lyrical on what that happened. For me, what that did for me is that I can create my God. That's what it did for me. It told me I can create a deity. I can imagine a deity and bring this deity into being. And the way I arrived at that point was, I was thinking about, I think I was reading a text written by an American artist called Harmonia. And Harmonia was talking about how she arrived at this idea of creating Yoruba gods and what. And for her, her explanation was like, and this explanation is not new. If you read any of other books, we arrive at that. God is the ideal of man. Man wants to become like God. God is an imagination of man, because we find our inadequacies and say, oh, if there was a being that could rise above us, surely that person is a God. So if anything, God is made in our image and not vice versa. So we are told God is made in our image, but we are actively imagining these gods. All these belief systems are fictions that we come up with and convince enough people to, to ride with us. And all of them can be interrogated, whether you're looking at Hinduism or you're looking at, unfortunately, I don't know much about Japanese belief systems, but if you're interrogating this idea of God, it always comes from a place of human inadequacy and human desire to be more than what they really are. So that sort of began my pantheon of deities. So there's about 4 deities in this space. There's Nambi or Wegulu on this side, and then there's 5. These also are deities, but these are Ateso deities, imagined.
What are deities? Like spiritual beings.
Spiritual beings, right. Because I'm not, maybe I should not talk too much about my faith, yeah, oh my God. Anyway, let's keep it at that. But in terms of just speaking to the power of imagination and the power of images, one of the strongest power that I ever gave myself was to imagine a God. And by the time I was imagining a God, there was no limit to whatever else I could imagine. Because if God is the limit of my is the limit. So I was like, we made a God, so we can make anything else. And I approach making from that point of view. I give myself freedom to imagine whatever I want in reference to everything else that I am reading. So that will sort of take you through. So that sort of covers 1/2 of the exhibition, which is dedicated to questioning belief systems, engaging with the supernatural. Now, this other half of the exhibition is somewhat what we call the personal, because all the works on this side of the exhibition are interrogating my self-understanding, mostly from a point of place. My parents immigrated to Buganda for school. They stayed. I was born in Buganda, and then they moved back to Dokolo, and I stayed in Buganda. I am more Muganda than I will ever be Itesot or Kumam. I speak the language, I understand the nuance, I understand the culture, but even just taking away from myself and as a Muganda, but it's also looking at us as Baganda. I know it's a very uncomfortable topic. Nobody likes to acknowledge it, but there are three sayings that keep me firm in my Mugandaness. Kabaka tagoba abantu ku ttaka lye, and waliwo ebiti bitaano. There are 5 types of Muganda immigrants that are canonized in Buganda law. 5. And I fall in one of those. I'm yet to figure out which one. Because there is Baganda Kaswa, Baganda, I've written them over there. I don't want to lie, but they're on that piece over there. But also that sort of helped me understand, one, how did my belief system arrive to me? It came through a Muganda man called Semei Kakungulu. So which ties into this idea of how I became Ugandan, which is what I'm trying to interrogate right now. And I started with the people who contributed my DNA, and then I went to the people that have raised me. So I'm culturally Muganda. And then expanding these borders. So where I am right now, I am now at the border that is Uganda. I'm trying to understand what this means for me, what this means for my future as a Ugandan, what this means for me as a Ugandan woman. So all those different layers, the foundation of them was trying to make a God who looks like me. So, karibuni. I don't know how to do this tour. I will hand you over to the beautiful, incredible, this one. I need to introduce her to you. So what we will do, so that I don't get exhausted, is we're going to divide this exhibition into 2. She will handle the divinity side, and I'll handle this side. So she will begin, and then you guys will come and find me on this side. So that you listen to different people. She also has her own understanding of the work, and I would love for her to share that to you. So, yeah.
Yeah, but it's my favorite piece. So. I would like to know what you think when you look at it, though. Because I've had some people come here and they see the ocean, like from an aerial view. Yes, I don't know if you see that, but everyone has a different interpretation. Someone could see maybe land, like I'm thinking, yes, maybe fertile land. So we can move on to the next one. Yes, please.
Why is it your favorite piece?
Because it's abstract and I get to make up very many meanings every day. It doesn't have to be the same every single day. Then this one's my Madi Muganda. What comes to mind when you see it? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This one is called Iritai Awicho. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well. It's in her mother tongue. But they're like, think of you coming back into Kampala after like a road trip. There are those things that you see on the roads, the baskets, the stools, those local sponges that we have. So this is speaking into who we are as Ugandans. They're like winnowing mats also, but also heirlooms that you can pass on to maybe your friend, your mostly family members. But they're also collages, and each piece is celebrating the photo that you see there. So the materials in this are aluminum foil, there is raffia recycled paper, and there's still napkin that came from this piece. I don't know if you can see it, and a bit of pen. So those are the texts that she wrote, because she's also a writer, so she put pieces of herself in there. So this piece, I would say it's celebrating beauty in different forms. A beautiful girl, nature, which is the bird, and then fashion. Then this piece, this one is celebrating the African woman. That's why she's at the forefront. Yes. And this one is celebrating activities. There is knitting, and then it could be netball, it could be football, played by girls. And this is, I'm sure every woman who has decided the world can wait, it's my day, self-care day. Then this, any kind of mother you can think of. It could be a surrogate, it could be a single dad, by celebrating motherhood. Then this one, if you think of wearing heels, there's that part of the shoe that you can't move without. So women are like the backbones of very many beginnings, but we're not given credit most of the time. So this is an eye-opener to that. If you have any questions, I am here to tell you.
And you're looking at African women. So one of the things that I try to do in practice is not to depict women at labor. I want to depict women at leisure, whatever that means for them and for me. Because my expectations, first of all, I'm a firstborn daughter, so I was given a job even before I arrived. And then that job keeps evolving, you know. First, you're free labor, you're a housekeeper, then you become a secondary mom. Then there are two expectations. They expect you to be as smart and as capable as a man, but also as strong and as resilient as a woman. But you're also still a woman. You see? So one of the things that I try not to do with my practice is to try to depict women working. Oh, yes, yes, yes. So this, I'm really sorry for how we're organically doing this, but it's more for self-preservation. These are works that I was thinking about my father and my mother, but I was not thinking about them as people. I was thinking about them through the social capital that they've given me. My father bought me a very expensive education, and my mother bought me goodwill. African women, or rather me, the mothers in my life, one of their biggest jobs is to buy me goodwill. They attend weddings for me, they attend funerals, they attend baby showers, because I don't have the time to do that. They introduce me to all my aunties. When people say, hey, Pam is not here, my mom is always saying, no, she's working, always buying me goodwill. Now, as young people, you don't realize how important that is until you need community. And then you realize that you never deposited in the granary that is community. You want to withdraw from a granary that you have not deposited. You've not deposited goodwill, you've not deposited love, you've not deposited capital, you've not deposited anything. But you want community to stand up for you when you need them. And the way that lesson came through for me was watching my mom do things. My mom doesn't have money. She doesn't have a job. But my mom can conjure things out of thin air. And the only way she does that is by continuously restocking the communal goodwill, by showing up for people, by sympathizing with people, by connecting. My mom is the Kayungirizi in our family. She gets everybody jobs. you know, through goodwill. She maintains good relationships with as many people as you can. And if you've ever tried to maintain a relationship, you know how hard that is. Because most of us, we do the perfunctory stuff of, hi, how are you? And then someone tells you, by the way, my head is paining, and you don't have a rejoiner. Or someone tells you, I lost a job, and you don't know what to say to that. Or somebody says, I lost a parent. Because you've not made space in your heart to handle other people's pain, to handle other people's problems. So you're like, njakusabira, thoughts and positive prayers. I will pray for you. So when I was thinking of these two individuals, this work is called Ilesu. My grandmother was nicknamed Ilesu. And Ilesu literally means Alesu, a rapper, you know. My grandmother was illiterate. She literally delivered herself to my grandfather. My father wanted a wife, another wife. He already had others, but he wanted another one. So he told his friend, get me a wife from your place. I hear those girls are good. So my grandmother arrived at my grandfather's house with a letter. And in the letter it said, the bearer of this letter is your wife. So she hand-delivered herself. And we tell that as a joke. And we tell it to make fun of my grandma. But my grandma was also one of the smartest individuals I've ever met, briefly, or heard about. She was very funny, like stand-up comedian type funny, that she made people pay for her jokes. Like if you wanted to hear a joke from my grandmother, you bribed her with a cigarette. Otherwise, it's not coming. And even when she was about to die of cancer, she was asking people to bribe her with cigarettes. So a lot of the times when I do this work, I ask myself, what would my grandmother do in this situation? She was smart enough to do it. My grandmother bought me capital. She came from a very poor family. She hand-delivered herself to a very rich family and gave birth to my mother. And through my mother, I have been able to access capital which I don't have. I've been able to access doors that I would never have opened. I've been able to get jobs. I've been able to do all these little things. And I wanted to do a piece of work that celebrates her. So this work is Ileso's constellation, the children she has raised, both biological and non-biological. I wanted to do something for her. This piece is called Ekaso Enyabu. Enyabu is still alive. He's confused about his age. We know he's about 109. He insists he's 113. We don't know. There are no birth certificates.
It's 100 for sure.
Yes. But Mr. Enyabu gave birth to Mr. Enyonu, and Mr. Enyonu paid for a very expensive education for me. And I can only say is very expensive because I'm only beginning to understand it now as an adult. The sacrifices that my mom had to make, the sacrifices that Mr. Enyonu had to make. Okay, for Mr. Enyonu, he had a lot of kids and a lot of wives. So, no, that was my father's name. So these two pieces are just my grandfather, my grandmother. I'm just thinking about, and the reason why I'm thinking about this also ties back into this, of benefiting from the capital that came from colonization. I want to be open to that conversation so all of us can be open to that conversation and fix the mistakes our parents and grandparents did, whatever those are. Like it's our responsibility because we have directly benefited from it. We can't run away from that. Because in the end, this capital educated people who came and drew the blueprints of this country. There's an urban planner. I've given you my example of my father who drew the blueprint for collecting taxes in this country. And he was doing his job as he was told to do it. But How many of you paid taxes? Has anybody remitted taxes this year? In this country? Have you've remitted? As an individual, as a company? Company. Go you, they'll catch you. Has anybody remitted? Huh? No, I'm not. No, but the reason why I'm asking this question is because we are also at this point of Tuzimbansi, Tuzimba country, with what resources?
Our taxes.
Who's paying these taxes? Eh? Okay, moving on.
Sorry, Pamela.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the material? Because I see different. I don't even know.
So the material, I like to take this for granted because most of the people around here have seen this work from the beginning, but the material is made from what I call a handmade paper textile. So it's made from 3 materials, this actual backing. It's made from lightweight paper. So lightweight paper, we're looking at paper below 50 GSM. And tissue paper, napkins, falls below that threshold. So I tend to use paper below 50 GSM. And for these specific materials, or what you see around, it's napkins that I've used. So I've used napkins, I've used gauze. There's gauze in there, so you can tell. So the gauze gives the material its structure integrity, because I wanted to make a paper one that is not fragile. Looks fragile, reads as soft, but is not fragile. So the gauze gives it structure integrity, and then I use a resin glue to sort of hold it together. So all these little bits are experiments on how the material translates. How does it translate as a surface? How does it translate as a 3-dimensional object? How does it translate if put on a canvas? The other, as an installation. So it's all these different questions of what is the visual vocabulary, what is possible with this material. Yeah. It's taken about, give or take, 5 years to arrive at a point of stability. So it's been a continuous process of experimentation and allowing myself. I have left some of these out in the rain to see how the rain treats them. I've left them in the sun to see how the sun bleaches them. Because when you use paper, by the way, I'm a bit petty. The reason I picked paper, because someone told me paper is hard to sell and paper is cheap. And I took it personal, you know. Like I was like, let's talk. Because paper is not cheap. Money is made out of paper. Documents carry paper. Our birth certificates, our passports, it's all paper. It's just title deeds, you know, and I was like, I think that's a bit shallow to look at a material like that, because any material has potential to become something different if you put time and attention to it. And that's what I did. I was like, I want to prove something to myself, but I also want to prove something to the person that said this. Because today, tissue paper costs, I buy these packets of tissue paper at about, I use a specific brand. I had to go through a lot of brands, my dear. I use a specific brand, and it costs, on the low end, I use 2 brands. One brand costs about, let me not lie, about 17K a packet. That's the expensive brand, and the cheap brand costs about 4,000 a packet. But by artistic standards, that's cheap. So also, I'm also questioning this idea of what is cheap. Is the idea cheap, or is the material cheap? Like, what are you struggling with? Is the knowledge I'm giving you cheap, or it is the material, the vehicle that I've used? If I use a border to come here, is my journey less significant than a person who has used a Mercedes Benz?
It's just riskier.
Questions. I mean, Henry, I saw the exhibitions with the bicycles, and I was in New York, and I saw how they're like different signposts for bicycles and different allowances for bicycles. And I was like, on one side of the world, the bicycle is a symbol of poverty, resilience. And on another side of the world is a symbol of sustainability, of what. And I was like, again, it's a bicycle.
You caught me tweeting what you just said a while ago. I was like, I need to remember that. Is the material cheap or the idea? I was just like, yo, that I need to remember. I was tweeting that you caught my name.
Okay, so I don't want to talk too much because I do want to leave some energy for the afternoon. And I don't know how to control myself. So I have to keep using Monique as a support. Yeah.
Okay, two missing pieces here are the donuts, I call them donuts, are the women. And then the full circles are the men. So this is the grandma, her mother, and the mother's twin, the Paston. These are the aunties. So this piece is celebrating the women mostly in her family. So all of us that are friends, not there yet. Then this one is celebrating the men. I hope you see the silhouette of a man. And also it looks like he's in a kanzu. And someone brought this to my attention. You know the pattern that passes through the kanzu? The cloth kind of finished it together. So this signifies what she said about the dad and the granddad being cotton farmers and rice growers, which is also the same here, trying to show how it's a family thing. So that's, yeah. Anyone who is a firstborn girl, this is a piece about you. And these are the responsibilities you take on before you're ready. But the fact that you can take them off, it means you can reinvent yourself anytime. But coming from Africa, you don't just choose any time. Like if you decide to choose, you're kind of disowned somehow, but also think of it as friends. Some of your friends won't come with you to your next journey, or you were the one who was left behind because you want to change who you are, rebrand. You're in my, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, all of us at some point we've left someone behind or someone left us behind, but it still shows how valuable you are and you are the owner of your life. Yeah.
And it also has a little secret. These burdens that we carry can actually be removed. Okay, go on.
So, yeah. So this one is called akipi, and it means akipi, and it means water. And for those of you who did geography, I'm map, and you can see certain lakes. Which lakes do you see? And there's also Victoria, and then Albert is there, but it's really faint. So this is the way I like to call it, a map of everything and nothing, because one side has all the information you need to understand the piece, but then on the other hand, it's barely there. It's also my other favorite piece, so yeah. Yeah, but Victoria is there. But it also shows, you can't see how far it goes, and yeah. That's why I call it a map of everything and nothing, yes. But when I look at it, I also see constellations, especially down here. I tend to see like the stars.
Where I came from, when you say water, it looks like a calabash, like a pot.
So, well, it's $8,000 if one of you wants to take it home.
For me.
And this one is a view from Pamela's home here in Kampala. Yeah, you can ask her where she stays. I don't want to give away her location, but imagine you're in the window and you wake up one day and take that photo. So as you can see, Uganda, we are known for our electricity lines that are kind of all over the place. But I don't know if you see the house in the background. Yes, that's the neighbor's house. And then this is the barbed wire, the fence. These ones are the electric poles, those things that we have. But she's also bringing to light the privilege we have for those of you who live in gated communities. That means you can afford the security, and there are people who cannot afford that security, and people who can give it, and people who cannot give it. Yeah.
It's interesting how it's supposed to be security, but it looks very scary. It's like electrified Fiesta.
Now I feel like most homes, unless if you live like in,
Like the security that we have.
that's very true. Unless you live like in Kololo or something. Yeah. So this one, I'd like to know your take on what you see. Which is correct. So we are imagining that Mercy is in here. She's watching TV, but she's more focused on technology, and that's missing out on all this human interaction. So there's Mercy inside there. Yeah, because most of us are so hell-bent on social media. You'll even go out with your friends, but you're more focused on updating your world of social media instead of being present. I've had people come in here, they enjoy the piece, but they do not know what the pieces are about, meaning they didn't engage. And then they'll tell people it was fun. What was fun about it? Do you know the artist's name? Did you like? Exactly. Exactly. So it also speaks into that. Yeah. But it's also fun, like chilling time. We really deserve to. That's definitely Mercy. Yeah. Then this one, you've all seen the artist. It's a self-portrait in honor of all women. And like she mentioned, that lesu that you wear, you're waking up the next day to attack the day again, you know? So any woman you see there, be it tired, strong, any kind of woman you see is being celebrated by this piece. And I attribute the colors to a calming feeling, because I imagine if she had used like red, those brighter colors, it means like she's actually going to fight. And she already mentioned she's trying to say that she's not looking at women who are just working the whole time, you know. You, what do you see?
It's like I'm going to do housework. It makes me sad. That's what I look like before we go.
Yes.
If anyone wants to take tea, they could get some tea and then we continue. As
Yes, that would be nice. There's also water.
Yeah.
Yes, so we'll take a 2-minute break. I hope you had a good time. Was the food good? Awesome. So this is called Ateker. I don't know how to pronounce the names because they're in a different language, but this is number 15. You can check on your maps. It's number 15, and that's Ateker. There's 2 names here of, actually this one is better. I want to ask questions. When you look at it, what do you see? And there are 2 names, I'm going to read them out, and then you can tell me if they resonate with you. There is Andrea Kagwa and Adolf Mokasaludigo. Yes.
you see a rosary
Mm-hmm.
or something that looks like a rosary.
And then this looks like a heart, right? A heart. Yes, and in the heart there is someone who is like praying, and I interpreted this as him holding a skull because of how they were killed, but this piece is in honor of the Uganda martyrs. Yes, I don't know if any of you are Christians or, yeah, but we're honoring you today in that form, maybe. And then this one, someone saw here, but this is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So this is Adam and Eve in the Bible, and then there is Adam and Eve in our cultures. That's the easiest way I can explain this piece. Yeah. The deeper meanings. Yes, the one that Eve ate from. So the gold would stand for the good, and the black would stand for the bad, because it's a tree of knowledge of good and evil. And this could represent the snake that deceived her. and enticed her to take. That is the one. And then this is called Certain Materials. I'd like to know Mercy's take on this one. What do you think? Okay.
Goodness.
It's also the cover art for the exhibition, right?
The cover art is a different piece.
It's a different one.
Yeah. It's the one? I thought it was this one. Was a different one. Okay. So this is also marriage material given the whole idea, but like we said, we came to her with positive notions and everything. However, there is also a society issue we have, not just at home, different countries. She has black hands and her face is a different color, which is bleaching in our communities, where people feel like the lighter you are, the prettier you are, or richer. But the fact that we all came to her and looked at her and were like, she's elegant, confident, it means that the flaws that she has are just in her mind. That's why she changed who she is, but is she truly happy? So this can mean the flaws you have about yourself usually come from your preconceived notions, or you're comparing yourself to that person you saw on social media or someone else. So she's saying learn to appreciate who you are, because if she can look this elegant with that society issue, then who are you to put yourself down? So I would say it's like a self-esteem kind of motivation painting. Yes. I'm here if you have any questions or any other ideas that you see in there. Not yet? Okay, we can move on to the next one. Yes.
If the idea is that she knows she's beautiful, no?
Yeah.
But her face is very beautiful. What is there to hide? Is that feeding also into the insecurities that one already has, or is that, how do I put it? Or is that her, I guess, hiding for the grand reveal?
You know, like we said, marriage material. So she looks like she's garbed in wedding attire. There are some cultures that do dress like this for weddings, or even, like she said, priestess. So that could be it, whichever way you want to perceive it. It's not meaning that she's hiding who she is, because whether she hides, we'll still see through it. But it's how she sees herself that matters. Yeah. So in retrospect, how you see yourself is how other people start seeing you. So if you see yourself as lesser than, somehow it will start showing, and then everyone treats you that way, unfortunately. Yeah. Oh, it is. Thank you. So this is 18, Social Nature Studies, and it's 18 and 19. It's, well, she was trying to celebrate herself being Ugandan, and the easiest way maybe, I would say, through the food. But also when you see like bananas, matoke, it also speaks into the Waganda. Because when you see here, we come like community, we are clustered, or yeah, here I think explains it a little bit better about the piece. Huh? And also when you read the subtle text, kind of explains a little bit more about the piece itself. Me? Yeah, I just wouldn't have it at home because I feel like it's wasted in a home. I would want it to be in a gallery, personally, because I wouldn't know where to put it.
Why would you feel that?
I mean,
No, personally, I think I would want it to be in a gallery because, I don't know, there's something about it that at home it would feel, it needs a place where it's fully lit all the time.
maybe it's too ceremonious.
That's what I believe.
But I like it because you can teach children.
Yeah, that's why
That's,
it's really
yeah.
Like
nice.
exciting. Could be.
Well, last thing I would want is kids around.
And also,
But that's always a very interesting thing for me.
But
Because I personally just detach from art that's like that. Like, why should art feel like that?
Sacred.
yeah. I don't know, I also feel like if I had it at home, I'd be worried about it 24/7.
you'd be giving instructions.
Yes, like don't do this.
Make you worry about it.
The kids, whoever is, yes. Because there's,
Yeah, it's part of the art.
it's part of the art, but you wake up one day and it's torn like a certain, I don't want that. That's,
You just know, because you see, you might find that if, maybe that's the point, that you know, like even with our culture,
yeah,
that if you teach them to value it, then they won't tear it.
that's, yeah.
They understand that, you know, it's with this thing that I learned that story and made it. And so every time they come, Mommy, what does this remind me? So they know that it holds this type of value.
Because again, if you keep it from them, then
Yeah, that's also
Which is
true.
the current challenge with galleries and collections, that you know,
people
many
think
of
it's
our
not
fellow
for
artists' work, we don't see it apart from photos. And you never actually see that unless you do a studio visit, because the moment it's done, it's shipped.
Yeah.
And you'll never see it again because economics of art. Then you'll wait 20 years after, then maybe the collector will remove it because it's holding a bit more, costs more, you know. So then it asks, like, well, what's the value of the art in a way, you know?
Okay, I'll have a print in the house. In the house. This, I would want it to be like a timeless piece. A piece that you'd come to and be like, there's something about it that I would not want destroyed at all.
But it's very interesting also because it's one of the works that doesn't feel like, even the way it's shown almost invites you to interact with it. But the more inviting, the more you're like, am I supposed to? Which also speaks to this whole conversation, like hidden, like notions in our public spaces, right? That things are for everyone, but they really are not.
Not for everyone.
But the irony of that is that I feel like she has gone through great lengths to like even allow into her thought process, right? The way it's being shown, the wording, the like layering of it. But still when we view it, so I ask myself, if I change this and put it in like at the park, what happens? Is it still an artwork? What is an artwork?
That's true.
Right? And he's talking about Matoke, man. Matoke.
What?
Yeah, so it's very interesting the things when we are talking about deities and how we choose to see things, right? Maybe we also are, but we don't. For us, we think we are the ones that can beat it.
Yeah, and then some, yeah. Well, like, yes.
Why the text?
That, which one's in particular?
Why? I don't know why.
like why was the choice made to include the text
Yes.
and not let the artwork speak for itself?
No. Why the choice to include the text?
To explain the artwork itself, but also to, it's like honoring the part, like when she mentioned that she's culturally a Muganda, it's, I know how to explain it, the words are just not coming straight to my head. Oh my God, I speak Lutoro. So I speak Lutoro.
Why did you write on these works? Or do you want to talk about it later? Why did I write on this particular pieces?
Yeah.
Like the text.
The text of the, yeah. Jim, ask your question.
Why did you write this particular text? And what, since you're a writer, I know it in most of your other pieces, you must have had text and you did not include it in your work. Why for this did you include the text? Is it related to
It's actually not a very complicated answer.
Because I was in the UK when I was making these works, and I was doing an exhibition with my mother-in-law. So the title of the exhibition was Meanings of Home. And I presented these two works, and I just wanted to sort of talk about home in my own way. And I wanted to sort of center the works in home as place, which for me was specifically Buganda. And the language. So it was a brief history lesson to the viewers on what that looks like. I mean, there's also other things, but I think should probably be very familiar.
Yeah.
Almost like an invitation to your
Yes.
I know that's what people think, but I have to say
Say it
that
into
when
the
I'm
mic.
writing for me is more instinctual than painting.
Don't do your
I
word
find
play
it
here.
difficult. So I'm a bit more intentional when I'm painting and composing and all these things. But when I'm writing, it feels like second nature to me. So I don't think too hard about it because I'm already confident in its output.
Oh.
We are satisfied.
This one is called Atumun. Once again, please don't focus on my pronunciation because I don't know Ateso, right? Yes. So Atumun is a little girl, and she represents goddess of youth. And usually, we only attribute youth to only being human, like we're the ones who stay young, but it can also mean the land staying young. So if you see the background, it seems like dry, but then there's like the moon. So Shazan, you're praying too for revitalize our land, revitalize like our health. Because anything that's young that doesn't grow old, that's immortality. So yeah, in short form, Shazan they went to for that. Yeah. Then the next one, this is the goddess of water. She's called Ideke Okipi. And I know she's yellow, and water, for us, we know it as blue. But our artist, where she comes from, sometimes is usually dry. So the yellow speaks into like drought. Because it doesn't make sense for her to paint her green, because that's like, you wouldn't need water. Yes, so you're praying to her for water. So that means your land is really dry. It's hot. Hence the zooming into her power. She's like doing a ritual for the water to come through. And then there's a bit of renaissance to her. Because if you see her, she looks like those sculptures that we always see, like, is it Michelangelo sculptures? Those ones, yes. But yes, she's a goddess of water.
She has a beautiful meaning.
Yeah, because most people thought it was actually a goddess of the sun. But yeah, now when you see the whole backstory, it makes a lot more sense. Need to be serious. Oh, does anyone have questions here? Because we can move on to the next one. The next one is this way. Yes, this one. Okay.
It's not even complicated. It's like I was just sort of imagining a conjuring.
Oh, right.
Yes, yes, a whipping up of substance. That's what I was thinking about in trying to mimic that movement. I mean, I was in the space of like, if I was supposed to gather sparsely populated water molecules and condense them into a big molecule that I can turn into rain. It's a whole story.
Okay, I see it. I feel it. Also, it's, can I say it by my mind? It's also by her armpit.
Oh, yeah. But aside from that,
This is for that, the
Yes, aside from that, I think when I was making these deities, they all have a specific hand movement. You look at a tumun, and she's literally almost trying to mock you, because I wanted to play with that idea of mischief, and the mischief that comes with youth. So there is that. And then I'm trying to sort of mimic a conjuring, but not in the, you've watched anime, right? Like when the guy is compacting a power. So I wanted to work with that movement without actually taking it full sail. And then, what's her name again? Okay, Ateker Abuamun is literally trying to break through soil, because she's the goddess of fast growth. Where I come from, which is northern Uganda, it can get really hot, but it's really beautiful during after the planting season, and the plants are shooting out from the ground. The greens of that time are really, really so nice. And I wanted to sort of depict a deity that is responsible for conjuring all the little plants out of the ground so they can come out. And there is that motion of her trying to break through the soil, you know. And then this one, who's Adeke Otapipiro, is one of my favorites. I don't know why, because I also struggled making her. So wind, where I come from, has such a strong significance, because that's what we use for winnowing. And this is how climate change is changing things where I come from. In December, when it's dry, so from December to January, that's when we used to harvest. And during that time, there was a lot of wind, which is called Otapipiro. So there's a lot of wind, which makes the work of winnowing very easy, because you stand downstream? Like if the wind is blowing in this direction, you stand like this and you pour the grain. And the wind does the job of carrying the shaft. So the grain hits the ground and the wind carries the shaft. Now during that time, there's also a lot of whirlwinds. Bachitawaha mu Uganda. These round winds. So in my tribe, in Ataso, those whirlwinds are called Otapipiro. And before, they were known as spirits. So when a whirlwind will come into your home, it will be assumed that there's a supernatural thing that's meant for this home. Either an ancestor is visiting, or an ancestor wants to tell you something. So during harvest, there's a lot of them. And they can create a lot of chaos, because, and most of you probably have never experienced it, but when a big whirlwind comes, for about 30 minutes, you don't know what's what. It creates such a huge dust storm, and it carries everything. People? I haven't experienced one as strong as that, but there are things that you'd think it should not be able to move. Chicken, yes. And they're just confused. And when I was imagining this deity, I wanted to imagine somebody who is in control of that chaos. So instead of putting somebody, I imagined somebody in the midst of that wind and holding it down with sheer might and thoughts.
Because she also looks like she's trying to control what she is and not trying to destroy.
Well, because if it's part of her power, that's the thing with power. Power is not good or bad. It is what it is. It is what it is. And when you look at natural power, for example, you're not going to say...
It does not have an attribute.
Yes, you're not going to say, because the very nature that we fear and we worship, like when you see water and you drink it, it quenches your thirst. But when you see a flood, like that sheer power over flood,
It's still the same water.
it's still the same water. and you're not going to say, oh, this one's good or this one's bad. And it's why I was thinking about all these deities, especially this one, because as an Itesot who lives with superstitious Itesot, the moment they see a whirlwind, people start casting demons. Jesus' name, I can't so. It's a whole scene. And when I was thinking of all these deities, I wanted to tap into, because they don't exist, they're imagined, but I wanted to tap into things that we already know, experiences that we know on a personal basis. So for me, the first time I saw my grandmother shouting at a wind, it was confusing.
It's a little bit scary, actually.
Yeah.
Because they believe.
They really believe that there is a supernatural deity in a whirlwind. And they were all shouting at it. I know for us, I don't know where that belief of shouting obscenities
It's also in my...
at things, and I was like, hold up. One person is saying Jesus, we break in Jesus' name. Another person is saying certain it's powerful.
I think there's like an anonymity as well, because I think no one else is going to hear you, but you get to say something, and it's hidden by the wind, by the noise.
I don't know.
I think it's also a way to deal with something that is beyond your control. So you want to exert some kind of power at that moment and say that, this is a force, I can do something, and this is what I'm going to do, even though it's really, really helpless. Because I've experienced this with my mom. She was quite a little, she has one to any vision when it's,
she has a security.
Yes. So there was an earthquake, and she's like, Maria, are you hearing that? And then she goes outside and she starts touching the house. And she's like, Jesus, you can't make this happen. And I'm like, listen, that's a little bit, But then her praying was scary. Is this serious?
Yeah, because by all purposes and intents, we know it. Okay, scientifically. Let me separate. Scientifically, or by the knowledge that we currently know, we know that these things don't exist, right? But the power of our actions conjures them up. So in our people shouting at this thing, it created the thing. And now the thing lives in our imagination as a real thing.
So we give it power.
We give it power. Because I didn't know of this thing before. I grew up in Kampala. There is no whirlwinds in Kampala. There are no open vast lands. Exactly. And then I go to Dokolo and I see like 3 every other day, and they're being shouted at. And that stayed in me for a bit. So this one?
Do that one.
This one? Oh, no.
That's fine. You're doing this one first.
Let me do this one and then I'll do this one. So, Nambi. I struggled with Nambi. Her story knows I struggled with her. But Nambi gave me life, you people. When the first time I encountered Nambi as a person, we were studying the story of Nambi and Chintu as a critical text. And we were unpacking it. And when we first had the story of Nambi, for most of us, we had it in primary school. It's part of your reading things. And you never pay attention to it. It's a myth, finish. Never came back to it. And then in 2020, we did a workshop, and we were talking about political imaginaries and storytelling as resistance. So we used the story of Nambi. Dr. Susan Chiguli took us through the story. And I love how Dr. Susan took us through the story, because she said, I'm going to tell you the story of Nambi as I heard it from my grandmother. I went to my grandmother, I asked her to tell me the story of Nambi, and I wrote down everything she said word for word. I only just edited commas, full stops where they're supposed to be. So the way I'm telling you this story is the way my grandmother told me this story. And her grandmother's version gave Nambi power that my teachers never gave Nambi. because she told the story of Nambi in a way that it was the story of Nambi and Chintu, but she gave Nambi her rightful place as the writer of this story. And she told the story, she's like, Nambi used to live in another dimension, not this one. She used to live with her father and her brothers. So they got bored of heaven and they came to earth, to Kuchakala, to see what's happening. And they found this dude with his cow. And I remember we asked, how did she know it was a man? How did she know it was, you know, a creature? So we were discussing gender and stuff, like how did she know? So she was like, Nambi saw this person, and she's like, I like this person. And she didn't come once, she came again and again and again. She's like, you know what? I want this person. So she went back to heaven, and she told her father, I went to earth, I saw a being, and I want to be with that being. Her father said, but we must test the being. So her father sent her brothers down to earth. They kidnapped Chintu's cow, which compelled him to follow it back in heaven. So he followed it back to heaven. He's like, guys, give me my cow. Guys are like, we want to give you something more, but we have to test you. So they arranged 3 tests. And all those tests, Chintu, who was a mere mortal with no supernatural power, passed all the tests because there was a supernatural help. You know, because the test was fetching water with a basket, cracking, splitting stone with an axe, and then figuring out where his cow was among thousands of cows. There's nowhere he could have passed, but something mysteriously helped him. So me in my mind, Nambi helped. She wants her man. Anyway, what that story did for me is showed me how systems and stories can be used to normalize systems. Because I remember asking, Nambi went to Chintu without paying dowry. She had the power of suggestion. She approached Chintu and said, hey, you can do this. And she did all the actions to make that happen. And even when they went to heaven and, you know, everything had done and they came back, she came with food. She came with millet. She came with all the different things that were needed in her home. She came with them. It's not all the things of what are you bringing to the table. She brought the table and the items on top of the table. And the items on the table. So for me, rereading that story from a place where I am also trying to learn African feminism, that was very powerful for me. And so it led me to the questions of like, if Nambi came to her husband for free, okay, we call it free, but it is not free. Free will, no dowry, no things. Like she was an active participant in her relationship, you know? She was an active participant. So for me, that was very powerful. And I remember I wrote a poem about it, but I still could not envision who Nambi was. It took me 3 years to finally put a face to this deity that I am trying to create. And when I was making Nambi, I was like, okay, what does Nambi look like? So the muse is a friend of mine who has multiple ethnicities. And I felt they carried the face of Nambi very well because they are also Itesot, Muganda, Munyarwanda. So it was a melting pot of different beings. And if you look at the map behind, also sort of talks to the origin of who I thought Nambi was. And then I created it. And there's a little trick. Her eyes follow you around. Have you done that? Like catch her eye from anywhere and just walk. Just catch her eye and just walk away. And keep looking at her. Her eyes will follow. She's all seeing. The women, the power most women have.
Oh no.
But she's holding seeds, millet seeds.
Magic.
We always have the power, at least for me, women have controlled food. I don't know anywhere else. We plan for it, we do for it, but this specific composition for me is looking at that moment when Nambi is crossing the threshold of heaven. Because Nambi is blamed for bringing death to the world. And the reason why she is blamed for bringing death to the world is because she went back to collect seeds for her chicken. She's like, if I go without these seeds, what will my chicken eat? So she went back, she got the seeds. On her way back, her brother Death, Walumbe, followed her. Now, the next installment in the story is I want to investigate the relationship between the mother of life and the cause of death. Are they twins? Are they? Because you cannot have life without death. I think that doesn't die is a cancer.
You keep dropping gems. Stop recording. Are they twins?
So the next installment.
I assume there are a lot of other artists present right now here.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is why I'm very candid.
Yeah.
If there were other people, we would not be having this conversation.
That is why my question is very, a little bit, are you not afraid that, I feel like I'm answering it in my head, but are you not afraid that one of us as an artist is going to latch onto something that you're saying and then come out with something?
I hope you do.
Come on.
I hope you do. Please copy me.
Oh.
Right. It's about time.
Liverpool.
No, it's the way she's, the way she's interpreting it. But as I'm asking the question, I'm also seeing the answer. So,
Because the granary is big. The granary of our identity, especially us. Let me tell you, Uganda has 62 tribes. Every 2 Ugandans speaks a different language. Do you know how vast that heritage is?
rich.
It is an ocean.
Interpretations
Because Nambi is Nambi in Muganda, she's Nandi in Maasai, she's another name, because the reason why it's a 5-year project is because I want to trace the story of Nambi around Lake Victoria. So I just intend to travel around the lake and figure out who their Nambi is.
So it's not repetitive.
Yes.
5 artists are talking about.
No, I hope you do. Because if you do the work, your interpretation will be so different from mine.
Even as you're producing.
Yes, something else will come to you. So I hope that, because the reason I make this work is, before I became an artist, I was working in corporate. I used to go to exhibitions, and I was like, who's making work for people like me? Who's making work for little girls like me? Who's making work for women like me? Who is talking to me? Who's nourishing me? Who's provoking me? Who? And I did not see anybody interested in provoking me in that way. It is only, that's what I'm saying, you ladies, now you're lucky. There's somebody to look up to, there's an artist to look up to, there's a studio to go to. But 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, we didn't know these things. That's why you guys should worship people like Imi who are building tables and platforms. Because a lot of us wanted to become artists, what that meant. We didn't know which spaces we would occupy. We didn't know what the process looked like. We didn't know what the resources looked like. Because nobody teaches you that stuff in school. You come out, you learn, try and error, you fail, and you go back.
Yeah.
Because we were having this conversation this morning of as an unmarried, almost 40-year-old, there was no person like me when I was 7.
Yeah.
whose lifestyle I could look up to and say, that aunt is single, she's happy, she's contented, she's doing her thing. Or that, oh, that person is this or this person is this, especially people who choose a separate path.
Most of the time, they're actually not that vocal about it. So
Because there's a shame tied to it. Because we live in a society whereby even if you have a PhD or you've invented a cure for cancer, if you're unmarried and childless, you are even there.
even if you have the kid in the
Yes.
see your husband is in because
Exactly.
you do all these things.
So for me, I'm not worried because as an artist, it's my job to provoke, to inspire, and if I'm doing it, that's at least one thing done. Now we can move on to another.
There's something very
Yes.
so you have the same intellectual. I was asking because I've tried to collaborate with a friend before on a talk where we're working on like a similar, let's say like we're both working on and I had a different approach and she had a different approach.
Yes.
And I wanted us
To merge.
our stories. And she was like, oh, it's been done a lot, or it's like, and I was like, this is just because somebody has done it. It doesn't mean that, now it's taboo and you shouldn't do it. I'm just looking for harmony.
From Rosalia Harmonia. Because
She stole it as well.
There's a difference.
You think because that person didn't have an exhibition or a movie or that person's not
What I would think is how we use the same words to write our books, different books. We use the same words, but different stories. Yeah. You'll find maybe which book? Maybe the Bible. How you write the Bible, and then how you write your poems. They are the same words, but how you frame them is different.
I think I can put this argument to rest. I was reading an article, unfortunately I forgot it, and the person was talking about how nobody has a style unless you grew up in a vacuum and you are not exposing yourself. What people have is a scene, because I'm drinking music, I'm drinking poetry, I'm drinking food. Like there are many things that finally make me arrive to these works. It's not just one single thing. In addition to my own capabilities, but I'm picking up so much wisdom from so many people. And how this wisdom, this is why I say I'm translating. I'm translating the same wisdom. It's not new. I'm just translating it for my audience right now. And translations are as multiple as the languages we speak.
So this way, definitely.
You know what? The diabolical person in me wants somebody to try.
It's such a big change for us. Yeah.
Yes.
Which was the way artists work. The whole time, Michelangelo and apprentices, and then they become the next.
Yes. Because that's what they say. When I was learning how to write copy, my creative director told me, find a copywriter you admire, right? And mimic their style. So at least you learn of construction. And then once you figure out if there's growth happening, you will abandon it. If there's growth happening. And I think that's the bit about process most of us never make it through. Because process will grind you.
Work.
So
You have to do the work. Yes. And I also just think that,
and it's like many years of failure or many moments before, and I think this is what process does for us artists. It builds your character, it builds your resilience, but it also teaches you about your own language and your ability to solve problems. Process does that for you. Because once you have a few wins in your process, you win one, you fail three, you start to gain a muscle that makes almost failure immune.
Naturally, but when you say that, I think there's also an interesting other facet.
It's like little doses of poison, that you keep ingesting until you almost become immune to failure. And you just head in. You have to start. I mean,
I'm talking command C, command V. I was like, copy and paste, just copy and paste.
Until someone, I guess, like, we don't know what to speak.
But also, you see the thing you say, like, this work has audience. People can tell. I think it's like a thing of like, I know you copy. Like if the copying is from, there's also the angle, I think which is what she's trying to emphasize, that which isn't good, right? The person is copying intentionally, and
with malice.
But the thing is, people, I imagine when people are purchasing or experiencing art, they're looking for something. And if you don't have that something, and I've seen it somewhere, I can't tell. So I don't know, it's not rocket. I'm just like, you like, you copy it, and you've not even added any. So we are not going to I guess, much more audience. Thank you.
But that's not even, and even to add to it, more, especially artists, we tend to talk about the same thing. Over and over.
Because we're in the same.
No, not even just like all of us talk about the same thing. You have a language. I feel like now, like more now than ever, I can walk into a gallery space, and even if there's 20 different artists being exhibited there, I can almost say, I might not be able to say that exact one, but I'll be like, I'll pick maybe three, and it's like, one of these three is Pamela. And I think and although we talk about style, it's not even so much about the style, it's about the conversations that we're having as an artist, right? And I feel like if you're just copying, you're not copying the language, you're copying the style, but you're not copying what the person is actually trying to say. And I think that as artists, that is what we're trying to do. We might not consciously realize it. You might go into your studio every day and paint like some things, and they all look different, and then somebody walk in and say, oh, so you're trying to say this, that, and that, and you're like, oh shit.
This is why you need other eyes on your work.
Exactly.
I cannot emphasize how much you need. Like, most of us are shy, but I'm 100% confident. But I have what I call my Mona Lisas, long-term projects. And those ones I hide. Because I don't want people to break my heart too soon. I don't want people to break my heart too soon. Because those are mine. I'm a little selfish with them. So I make them and I put them away. They're the kind of works I work on once a year. There's one that's entering its 7th year right now. Like once a year. And because when I learn something from elsewhere, I go and put it on my Mona Lisa, I package it, put it back in storage. If I travel, learn other things, I come back, I try it out on one of them, I package it, because that for me allows me to feel confident in a thing I've learned before it's broken down. So I put that back and I come back and then I show people other things, you know, works in progress. So that people tell you, they're like, man, archival qualities, what have you done? So I'm like, okay, how do I need to protect the work? So I go and do the research and the chemistry around that. Somebody says, packaging, will this work roll? So I test. I roll it, so I know that I can answer definitively that yes, it will roll. Is it waterproof? I leave it in the rain for 3 days. So I come up and tell you, yes, it is waterproof. But you have to be brave enough, and you also have to sort of not love your work enough not to destroy it. Like, but when you mention that, because sometimes people come to my studio and they're like, you have a lot of work in your studio. I'm like, what makes you think this is work? It's, like, there are things that I make and I know, I have this problem and I just want to fix this. When I fix this, the job of that piece is done. I move on to the next one. Like when I finished that one, I was like, what more? That work for almost 4 years to see if it will fade.
But to take you back to this piece,
Yes.
say you're going to grow it to like Victoria. Would you consider like Victoria or
Narura. In my notes, it's Narura. Yeah. I mean, I'm crazy about water. I find water powerful. Everywhere I go, I look for water. I look for a water body. If you read up on hydrofeminism and how we are all water and how water has memory, that's a whole different thing. So it makes sense for us to have this relationship with water. And for me, eh? What were you saying? What was the song? They're right there. Yeah. And also, you guys, aside from that, we need to have the conversation about water. I'll give you a small fact, because I like to give facts. The world's most freshwater lakes are situated around the Great Lakes of Africa. So all the way from Central African Republic up to Malawi. That's where all the world's largest amount of fresh water exists.
from where?
Around the Great Lakes region. So in this time when fresh water is becoming ever scarce, guess what the new resource might be in a few years?
They find the water to toss it aside. Need the water.
Yeah. So that's something we need to pay attention to, because does anybody ever read up on speculative realism? It's a philosophy that we need to read about or sort of walk into, because if we don't become protectors of water, we will not have access to it.
Start singing that song.
Protect.
Hey.
Protect the water. It's getting warmer, we're feeling it, and there's too much money to be lost for us to actually revert our ways of living. So there's a lot of personal and communal accountability needed for everyone involved in protecting these things. Because most of us, like, you go to the lake, you swim once, but you don't know that in the middle there's some people dumping chemicals, dumping.
It's a whole pipe being built.
there's a documentary that scared me, and I'm sure it will scare you too. It's called The Mall. Has anybody watched it? The Mall. So The Mall is a documentary about I think it was a Swedish undercover intelligence guy who was doing undercover work like a spy in Korea. And in the documentary, he pretends to be like some guy who has money and connection, and the Korean guys are like, we'll get you an island in Lake Victoria to produce your gangs and narcotics, drugs. So in my mind, I was like, this story made it to a documentary. Lake Victoria has 84 islands, some of them uninhabited. So, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but please pay attention. Yes. Yeah. Pay attention. And demand accountability. Who? From ourselves. It's no longer those people. It is us. It is our peers in government. It is us. It's no longer our parents, it's no longer those people, it is us. It's your grandmother. They are the policy makers. That IMF bill they were pushing on Kenyans, no Kenyan wrote it. But by the time that it made it to a Kenyan parliament, without a single Kenyan looking at it except the parliamentarian, there's a bit of negligence on our part. Or lots of it, not a bit.
That's in Kenya.
I tell you, they passed the bill. What they're rioting, you're already signatories too. They passed the bill. They passed the version of that bill in your parliament. We did it all. We just your parliament. Look at our. The royal abused, and so it's the one that informed me. How much glue do you use? What are the ratios? You know, because if you put too much, it becomes hard. If you put too little, it's flimsy. So you need to get the ratios right. It's the one that taught me about the color. At first I used dyes, as you can see. Dagalalian sansa keeps reacting with your environment for the rest of your life. So this piece is gonna change and for the rest of its natural life. Because the dye, the dye for palm leaves, when it comes exposed to humidity, it runs. So this piece is going to change in color for a very long time.
Is that natural dye?
That's the bit that is not sure, because somebody did a research. So while they sell it to you in the market as natural, but someone said they're oxides. They are not natural. Yeah.
Have you come across, have you been able to prove?
Not yet. So that's the next bit of my research. Because the first bit was to make the material and test its durability. Then the second bit that I want to do now is to test its longevity. And I'm hoping I can do that in a lab or something. Yeah. So the piece is from a poem called When They Gave Blessings. I was annoyed, I was not happy, I was tired of being a black woman, and stressed about it. So I was like, whoever gave blessings, where are mine? Where did you throw mine? Why do I have to work extra hard for attention? Why do I have to put myself at risk just to, you know? So this piece and the poem that goes with it is very, I was angry, I know that. And I now own it to the full chest. It's okay, but then I was kind of ashamed of those feelings, because in the art world we pretend we are a meritocracy. We pretend that the best art gets the opportunity. And to find that out the hard way was really distorting. Because you're given an outline there, right? Gendo Sone, do your research, remain rigorous. When you finish all these things, all these opportunities are waiting for you. It is, and also I think that also speaks to the diversity and the agileness of our education. The kind of education that I consumed was static. It didn't teach me how to be an artist. It just told me it was formulaic, for lack of a better word. Do this, do this, do this. And then I did this and I'm like, but networking, but admin, but this. Hey, I need to go in bed with some comically evil people. Like,
Very comically.
like,
It's like a caricature.
I was like, I feel like I wish I wish somebody had prepared me mentally for the fight that was coming my way.
If you had prepared, you might have been, you know, a little bit, but you discover.
So I was like, but I've outgrown it. I've learned from my elders how to use your anger efficiently. So now I tell people I'm angry. I'm angry even right now. I'm always angry, but I'm figuring out ways to use my anger. Yeah. Because I'm asking myself, okay, you've told me this. This is what I know about myself. These are the spaces that are available with me. This is how I disrupt the narrative. And that's exactly the channels I'm choosing to pass. Even putting on this exhibition was really hard. It's independently financed. Independently. Which means I had to rely on the power of community. I had to tell people, man, come curate. Man, come help me live this. Man, come do this, come do this. And the village showed up. I will believe in that village more than I will believe any comically evil person. Because the truth is that every time somebody has tried to close the door for me, my community has come and kicked it wide open. And I pass.
But then again, I mean, an artist has to define what success is.
That is also a very complicated question, and that's a question I think Henry will tell you about, is that comes from process. It comes from process. You guys, I know when people say process, I don't know how to articulate it to you without telling you my exact process. But that comes from taking the time to getting to know yourself. I thought that was an easy thing to do, but my dear, it changes with each part of your development. The things you wanted when you were a preteen are not the same things you want now. And I think as artists, we should give us the grace to redefine what that looks like at every stage. When I first became an artist, I told people, for me, a measure of success is to have my work collected by a museum. When my work was collected by 2 museums, I was like, that was no biggie. Give me another one. Give me another bigger problem. No, but you see where I am. Because now, when that happened, this is the problem of asking for daily bread. Daily bread you can get. But what happens when you ask for a dream? Like, what's his name? Dr. King. He had a dream that superseded his existence. And I learned that from the artwork workshop with Simone and Jami. Because Simone told us to tell him what we want, what we dream about. And all of us were like, I want to be rich, I want to be the most remembered artist. So, like the usual things. Yes, I want to be rich.
We have to be honest about
There are bills to pay. I do want to be rich. I do want to be famous.
we want to be remembered.
I do want all those things.
But is
But
that success?
there's a canyon of experiences that happens between what you want. There is a vast canyon, and nobody ever talks about that canyon. And nobody ever talks about, even in the canyon, there are like other hills that you have to go through. And it's not necessarily a bad experience or a good experience. It's just an experience that must happen, whichever way you define that.
Doesn't exist in life.
But there is lunch. Let's eat. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Hi. We're really glad that you honored our invitation to come. I'm just going to introduce myself. and introduce Ira the Granary, and then Subi will talk about the artists Pamela and Martha who are here, and then how Ira the Granary has come to be here. So my name is Imi Mali. I'm an artist, a visual artist, interested and working a lot with memory in my practice, but Ira the Granary is, I don't know if I should call it a project. Let's just say a project that I co-founded. I co-founded with my sister during COVID, the COVID lockdown. It started as a project for us to bake and eat and create eating spaces together. But I got bored along the way and thought, okay, maybe we can do a lot more than just eating together under Ira the Granary. Ira is a Lubara word for a granary, a place where you can keep food so it can be accessed later. I know in Luganda it's called, what is it called? Echi? What is it called? Echi? Echaji, yes, yes. So, so with the project that is running, we're more interrogating memory and what archives are like for us as artists or people interested in the arts. What archives are we keeping of our existences, of our practices? Are they written archives? Are they told archives? Are they archives that are existent in the work themselves? So it's really an interrogation of what that is, and Ira has different segments. There's a segment called Kitchen at the Granary. Kitchen at the Granary invites a few people, most likely 12 to 15 people, to an artist studio, to an artist studio or a space of someone who is interested in the arts to kind of interrogate their work and also think with them along the thoughts of archiving and what archiving is for them. So that is Kitchen at the Granary. It's a small session. It happens bi-monthly, and we've had about 10 of those sessions so far. And it keeps growing, and it's incredible. The way people get to the different sessions is sort of curated, for lack of a better word. Because people have different practices and different needs for their practices, so we talk with the artists about what they think might be interesting for them, or we also suggest maybe different things that might be interesting for them for the Kitchen at the Granary sessions. And then we have a community kitchen that we are currently finalizing with setting up. This is a space that is open to anyone and everyone who's interested in cooking and food, and also a space where we can have podcasts shared, or a place where we can watch together different art films or things that are interesting for you, but in a space where we can cook also. Like, food is really the gathering point many times with Ira. And then we have the food basket, which is what has brought us here today. The food basket is a more open discussion or space that allows for us to have maybe artist talks, further interactions in terms of exhibitions that are running, programs that are running already on the art scene, but have a deeper conversation with the makers of that program about maybe what they went through making the program, or whatever is really vital within that session. So yeah, I think I'll stop there for now. And yeah, I will stop there for now. But thank you all for coming. Everyone is invited to these sessions. They don't have to be artists alone. So you can invite your welder, you can invite your Uber driver, you can invite it's really open, and it's so that more people interact with the arts further than the artists or writers or poets. because there's a particular crowd that comes to art exhibitions and things, but we want this to be more open to lawyers, to anyone really, to come and interact with art. Yeah, so you're all welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much. My name is Subi, if we haven't interrupted prior. My name is Subi, and I have this great honor to work with this really lovely lady called Amy Mali. And really, yeah, I think it's called finding a friend, a sister, and someone who you can just do life with. So really grateful for that. And it's such an honor to also expand that space with you all, with IRA. Today, this evening, we have this great honor. First of all, we had a personal exhibition tour with this lovely, lovely Pamela. Thank you so much for the morning and for sharing about each and everything, just your process. I think for me, is always very fascinating, and I really honor and love how the thought process to your work and how it's always very inviting for others. So that's really special. So it's really, really with great honor that I'm excited to introduce this conversation. I think I am, it's an introduction. With two very, very powerful women who have also very intentionally created space for others, and that's something we don't take lightly. Martha Kazungu is a Ugandan curator and art historian. She holds a Master of Arts in African Verbal and Visual Arts with a focus on curating and media in Africa from the University of Beirut, Germany. Several years of promoting the several work of women artists led to her founding Njabala Foundation to render visibility for women artists. She is on a scientific advisory board for art and feminism's exhibition by the Kunstmuseum Wolfsburg. Kazungu also serves as an external curator for the German Federal Cultural Foundation Turn 2 Labs 2022. She is currently finalizing, is it still?
I don't know which way. Let me see.
I'm reading the one from the international curators. Is that good? Oh, I still keep going. It has a lot of things. But I was like, are you still currently finalizing?
I'm not. I think this is a very old bio.
Okay.
Let's just say I run Njabala and then.
Okay. Yeah, Martha runs the Njabala Foundation. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to, you've now had how many? 3?
Yeah, editions, yes.
3 editions, including this year. And it's usually in collaboration with the Makere Art Gallery. And usually, so always watch out for it with some really amazing women's artists. Martha will be in conversation with Pamela, whose exhibition we are at. Pamela is a Ugandan multimedia artist based in Kampala. Her practice probes identity, history, and gender complexities. In 2018, Pam received the inaugural Mukimba Musoke Art Prize. Since then, she has workshopped, exhibited, and done residencies in Africa, Europe, and the UK, notably Africa in Venice, and the DKC residency at York University, both in 2023. Her work was featured in museum exhibitions such as, where she confronted the idea of home in and as a foreign body for the first time. This not only enriched her experience on what it means to thrive as a Black body moving through the world, it also enhanced her visual vocabulary. Her work has featured in multiple exhibitions, and we have the great privilege of being in one of them today and really having a conversation around how she got to this place and what it means to practice in this time, doing the work that she does and doing it so eloquently well. Please put your hands together for Martha.
Luckily we are teachers, so we can sit in front. Probably need a blackboard. No. I think what Sandra hasn't mentioned, this is also my sister.
Hey.
I met I met Martha Kazungu in 2017. I was doing a residency at 32 East. And she's the only one who gave me feedback I didn't like. And for me, that produces the opposite result. I stick on you. Because it's so easy for people to tell you what you want to hear. It takes somebody who cares about the work to tell you what you don't want to hear. And for me, that was a green flag. That at the beginning of my career, you can critique it with care, but also with intention. And I was like, wherever Martha goes, I have to go.
That's so sweet. I didn't know. It had to take era for me to know that. Thank you, Amy. I didn't know that. I swear. I mean, I know that Pam and I have a chemistry, but I didn't know how it was sparked. So that's lovely to begin this on. Yeah, thank you, Sandra, for the wonderful invitation. Thank you, Pamela, for agreeing to do this with me. Thank you all for being here with us. We'll just get to it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so when Amy invited me to speak with Pam, I was like, you know, with Pam, I don't need so much planning. It just happens organically. And I hope you also, you know, can flow with the flow as it flows to this afternoon. And since you already had like the walkthrough, I wonder if we should not just like dive in. I don't know to what extent the walkthrough gave service to the talk today, and if everyone here was in that walkthrough, or if we could just like briefly speak about the show, like just in a very, very brief way, and then we dive into processes, into community, into, you know, everything that accompanies this kind of activity as we're seeing it today. So just briefly about your first solo exhibition in Uganda, what it is for you, and you know what kind of prompted you there to that show.
This show was a provocation, I think, from about 3 people. I'd always wanted to do an exhibition, and I told myself I want to do a solo exhibition, but I did not know what that meant. So I realized before I do a solo exhibition, I must first become an artist. And before I become an artist, I must first do the work that leads you to becoming an artist. I've always known I want to be an artist. I've always introduced myself as an artist who writes. Like, it's a very natural place to see myself as an artist. Even when I was growing up and we're doing these mommy and daddy games, I was the shopkeeper. Because the shopkeeper gets to make things, you know. You make cooking oil, you make beans, I was that person. And then went on, studied and everything, did some work in the branding and marketing sector. And I think in 2015, I was like, I want to do an exhibition. I had an art degree. Surely I should have the skill set to make an exhibition. And I quickly learned that I do not have the skill set to make an exhibition. So there was a lot of work that went to becoming and producing work that is worthy of an exhibition. So once I realized that this is a marathon and not a sprint, I slowed down and started to put things into place that would help me to become the artist that I saw myself becoming. For this specific exhibition, the conversation started 2.5 years ago. I was approached by a gallery, a local gallery, and they asked if I could do an exhibition. And I said, no problem, when would you like to do this exhibition? They said, 3 months away. I said, no, I need time. And then we scheduled for the exhibition to happen in January of this year. And January came. Again, it kept being postponed. Eventually, for the exhibition to be housed in this place, a lot of things went, some good, some bad, but we eventually had an exhibition. On settling into the works that make this exhibition, I was very intentional about it because I was like, Pam, you have to give yourself distance from the work. So I made the work, had it curated diversely by 3 different people, because I was having 3 different conversations. One of my best, the person that was looking at this exhibition, he didn't even know that I was working towards an exhibition. I just told him I'm making work and I need a second eye and I need somebody to ask me questions I don't like to answer. And for me that was Trevor Mkoli. He made himself available. He would see the work almost every month as it was developing. Even when I was not in the country, I would share it with him. When I had like a problem, because I'm not very academic, I don't understand these academic things, so I have to put in a bit more work to understand them. So it helps to have somebody who knows the language and how to translate it. And for me, that was Trevor. He knew the language, he knew the words, and in our everyday conversations, he would ask me good questions. And the reason I say good questions, because people ask you any type of questions, but the kind of questions that you latch on and keep on chewing at them, that is a good question. And Trevor asked me 3 good questions. One was, if you call yourself a feminist, feminism is an ideology and a belief system. How has it changed you as an individual? And I had to chew on that for a bit. The next one he asked me was, the next question that he provoked me was, what kind of, if you're subscribing to a certain philosophy, what is the methodology at which you arrive at that philosophy? Like, what are you feeding yourself? What are you eating? What are you exposing yourself? What are you reading? What kind of conversations are you having? Who are your peers? Who are these people that are contributing to this that is in your head? Because it's that granary that evidently shows up in the work. And if you're feeding on shallow stuff, the work will be shallow. Like if you're eating, whatever you're eating eventually comes out in the work. And then the last question he asked me, I was at a residency, and I was being told that I told him I'm at this residency, and they told me there are no expectations. And he asked me, a person who has no expectation out of you, does that person really respect you? And that one took a while to land, because we go to residency spaces, they say, here's space, here's material, do what you want, we have no expectations. And that feeds into the quality of what we produce at these different spaces. Because I asked myself, I asked, why are you asking me? It's like a person should have expectations. Public funds have been spent. You are in that space and you are expected to be a certain expert of your, whatever your field is. They're inviting you as an artist who works on this subject. There has to be expectations. And those expectations have to be defined. And if the expectations are not defined, it means somebody didn't do the labor of understanding your work, understanding the job that you're supposed to do, so they can define the expectations for you. So that took some time to learn. And what Trevor does for me, and the reason why I'm mentioning this name is because you all have Trevors in your lives. You all have that person who tells you things you don't want to hear. And I want to say just hold on to that person, even on days when you're fighting, because it's good for you and it's good for your practice. Because a person who asks you hard questions, cares about your practice, and sees your potential to be better than where you are right now. And I took that to heart. So that for me was an anchoring for the work that finally came out, because I was like, okay, I care about African feminism. What does that mean? What does that mean for me? How did I understand it and how does that come out? I care about this subject. What does this mean? I care about this subject. So it's taken a lot of time of removing all the facts, you know, all the flowery things we like to surround ourselves with to make ourselves feel like we are, you know, weighty. and reduce myself down to a person who knows nothing and become a student afresh of everything I touch, every subject matter I come in contact with. Even if it's such a word, I've got into the habit, if somebody tells me, give me a word, any biggish, arty word.
Identity?
Yes, if someone tells me identity, in my mind, I think I know what it is. We think we know what identity is. But I stopped assuming I know what things are. So immediately I have a word like identity. You do that top line survey of what is identity? And then what does identity mean to me? Then how have other people negotiated identity in their work? And then what is available to me in terms of skill, material, resources for me to actually do this subject matter justice?
Well, wow. You have told us so many things. You have told us about the process of how this came together.
Yes.
But you delved so much about the community. And I think, of course, you mentioned Trevor and you mentioned the residencies. And I think the artistic community can mean so many things and can do so many things. Maybe just diving into that to speak about, how people can or could cultivate their own community. And how, in an artistic career, how that should be done or how you've been able to do it beyond Trevor, maybe. Because I think you've really given us a deep insight into how Trevor Mkoli has, affected your practice.
I think there are three words: community, networking, and maintaining of relationships. Community, when I came into the art industry, some people know how I got in. Came directly from a corporate job, had corporate ideals. I came in with this thing of like deadline standards, that whole structured thing. And I quickly noticed that that's not how it works in the art world. In the art world, you must earn trust, you must cultivate this trust, and you must maintain this trust. Because you're working with people, one, that are actively trying to find themselves, actively trying to invent the language that defines themselves and the work they do. You're working with people who are working with sensitive issues, they're working with vulnerable people. They're also working with people who are, for lack of a better word, their existence is criminal. So you have to, there's a certain amount of care that comes in maintaining this community. And if you're unable to bring that care and intention to maintaining the community, you'll be kicked out of that community. Because that community is not just one individual, it's multiple individuals. And that community, and all these individuals are different stages in their career. A lot of times when I meet people, they're like, man, how can you make connections for me? How can you introduce me to this person? And I always tell them, I will introduce you to this person, but the work of maintaining that relationship, of working that relationship, is on you. And it's as simple things as communicating in advance, responding on time, articulating your goals within a project.
And your needs.
And the needs. And being honest and vulnerable with yourself. And also trusting that the person that you're working with is going to hold you. So choosing your allies in the community is very deliberate work. Most people just say yes to anybody and anyone, and then they're exploited while they're there, and then they're like, how did I not know this happened? How did I not see this happen? The way you choose a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a wife, the same care you take in choosing an intimate partner for an artist is the same care you need to take when you're choosing your long-term allies. Because these people are going to see you at your most cringe, they will see you at your most frustrated, they will see you at your most, the unflattering bits, and they'll also see you at your greatest. They will also be there to hold space for you, because I'll give you an example. You're an artist in Uganda. You've never traveled out of Uganda. Who's talking for your work? Like, who's presenting it? And how are they presenting it? Are they presenting it in ways that give you dignity, in ways that give weight to your work? So if you've not invited people in at the onset of the work being created, how will they know to talk for it from a place of authenticity and of respect for you? So for me, your collaborators, your community, your tribe, these are people you say, guys, you will see me naked, you will see me fully clothed, you will see me drunk, you will see me sober. And these are all me. And if it doesn't work out, you tell me now. That's the approach I take to life. Even when people tell me, oh, that person is a bit shady, I tell them, they say you are shady. Is it true? Disprove me. There's an art dealer everybody warned me against. And I was like, I need money. But this person is also comically evil. How do we go about it? And I remember, after a couple of wine glasses, some social lubrication and stamina, I sat this person down and I'm like, listen, me, I don't listen to gossip. I have had this, I have had this, I have had this. What say you? And they were like, this happened because of this happened because of this, and this happened before. So they gave me enough information to pursue the relationship or not. But that act also showed them that I'm not a bullshitter. I'm not here to waste time. If you want an equitable relationship with me, you will get it. But if you also want to bullshit me, you will also get what a bullshitted Pam looks like. And I've burned a few fingers, but I've also made a lot of great friends. In being blunt and honest with my plans. Because this is a thing, I don't know at what level we are in our career. When you enter the career, you're like, want to be an artist? The first people you will meet are like, we want to promote you. We want to show your work. We want to do this. Everybody wants to give you an opportunity. But you quickly learn that nobody just wants to give you an opportunity. The subtext is, you have something to offer. Yeah. Now, as an artist, if you don't know what you have to offer, that is when you'll be exploited properly. Now, the moment you don't know what you're offering, it means you can't negotiate well. It means you can't anticipate your needs around your work and your practice. It means you can't take care of yourself. We've heard of stories of people being stranded in Europe with no medical insurance, no housing, no this, because you didn't ask the right questions. You didn't anticipate your own needs. You didn't know what you were offering. That took a while to get there, but what that does for you, if you approach it with intention, you identify quickly who to work with and who not to work with. So you ask yourself, is this a table I'm comfortable sitting at or not? And if you don't know that, that's when 10 years later, you have nothing to show for your practice.
Let me cut you short, Pam. And I think I should very briefly explain why we think talking about community is important for this particular sitting. It's because we live in an art scene where there's so much exploitation, like people very much in need of our free labor. And because, there's not so many opportunities, we are really in a hurry to give ourselves, to whoever is asking. And we find ourselves like, there's so much pain, agony, exploitation that's happening beneath the blanket. People don't even speak about it in public because we don't have like a structure which is standard, like for, the wages per day or per hour. Like we don't have those kind of things in place. And so we just exist somehow. But in the long run, so many things have been happening to people like, Pamela, myself, others. And you're wondering, how come we are experiencing these things now? Like, what have our fathers and mothers done to, enable us to know that these things exist? And so this talk is really beyond, the glamour of like us having a beautiful exhibition. It's also to talk about, the difficult conversations around surviving in an art scene, around cultivating your community, as she said, but also it's not obvious that when you do everything she said, like life just happens, right? Still there are mishaps, still there is confusion. And I think now we're going to speak a bit about like what happens when this community is broken. When even if you know what you want and your needs are plain and quite apparent, they're still broken. Like how do you move forward with that trauma, if I could call it? Like maybe speak a bit about like when community is broken, like how someone can survive that and even move past that. Maybe you could also speak about, directly to this exhibition in that.
I think I did an exhibition last year out of the country, and that exhibition traumatized me properly. But I sat with myself and I was like, why was I caught off guard? Because I'm a bit of an overthinker and an overplanner. And I asked myself, why was I caught off guard? And I realized it was, what's the word? Naivete? How do you pronounce it?
Naivety?
Naivety. It was my naivety and just assuming that everybody has my interests at heart. Like that was very sobering for me, because we artists think we are the shit. We think we're great. We think we are likable. We think we are funny. We think we are cool. Like we have enough ego to go through life. And we enter spaces with this ego. I am an artist. I'm obviously predestined to be great. So I should be given space. I should be likable.
Worship.
And then people prey on that ego. They flatter you. They're like, oh my God, you're great, you're fantastic. Oh, this is so cool. And then we believe the flattery. And then as you're believing the flattery, the trap is set for you. So what does flattery do? It blinds you from not reading the fine print. It blinds you from what is the fine print? I know some people here, so I'll not ask them. I know people who have signed contracts, consignment lists, but I don't even know if Mr. Ruganzo has told any of you about a consignment list. The Chambogo students are there, huh? Yeah. So usually, in a situation, a guy comes, says, man, your work is bad. I can find you markets in America or in Europe or where, and you bundle up your work, you give it to this person, and you wait for the miracles to start raining in your bank account, right? It seems like a pretty much simple solution. Nobody's gonna haggle. You never talk how long the work is gonna stay with this person. You never talk prices. You let them set these prices. You never talk safety of the work. You never talk taxes that you have to pay. You never talk production costs. So a work that was priced $5,000, we learned this the hard way. An art dealer approached us to do a commission. We saw 5,000, we got excited. We're like, wow! It was the most money we'd ever made. For a person who'd been selling work of $50K, $100K, $50, 5,000 was a shitload of money in the pandemic. And I produced work in 7 days. What, less?
Yeah.
Like a
maybe
huge
4.
piece of work.
€1.
In 4 days. And ask us how long it took us to get paid. And how much we were paid of that 5,000. That $5,000, we had to pay tax twice.
Yeah.
40% of that money went to taxes. And then the rest we had to divide among 3. Remember, I wanted to buy pink Timberlands? And I remember her messaging me, she's like, Pam, I don't think we can afford the pink Timberlands with this kind of money.
Not possible.
It was not possible. Because after we had paid the taxes, paid all the other things that this person did not disclose to us in the beginning, we were left with nothing. And this is not a unique story. It has happened to most artists, and especially artists who don't like to read, they will steal from you until you get that.
Maybe the thing we should say about this story, one successful thing about this story is someone was buying, what's it called? Copyright.
Yes.
For 5 years. So the work is now ours, because the 5 years are over.
The 5 years are over, so it's now back in our...
So the work is still in Kampala. Yeah.
But what am I trying to say? When community breaks, don't enter community like a naive person.
Yeah. Have some receipts.
Have some receipts. And the paperwork is how you demand accountability. And it doesn't need to be very complicated. If I come to you and say, I love those shoes, and I want those shoes, but I'm not going to pay you money now. I will pay you in 30 days. Write it down. Say, you've agreed, I've given you 1, 2, 3 pairs of shoes. In 60 days, I will come back to you and see if any of those shoes have sold, and you pay me back the money you're supposed to pay me. It's very difficult to call somebody out on terms that were not set. It's very difficult.
It's actually impossible
to hold anybody accountable on things that were not set.
It's impossible, Pam. Very difficult.
It's not.
Gives a lean way that it could be possible. Like, because sometimes difficult things can be able to happen, but it's impossible.
It's impossible
to claim for
anything.
For nothing if you have nothing in place.
And that for me was such a tough learning. I recently had to donate a work to somebody I don't trust, or rather to a museum I don't trust. And I asked for the donation paperwork. So how does donation work? As you grow in your career, your art dealers will tell you, this one we need to give it away for free. So you enter, it goes from public to private or whatever. I want my work back with me. And that was agreed upon. So it's still community, but there are still people within your community that want to fuck you over. Forgive my French. So how well you know your community will teach you how well you deal with everybody. Even with the making of this exhibition, for those in the know, we had a few hiccups. And the only thing that protected me and allowed me to exercise my voice as an artist is that there was fine print, contracts were reneged on, and I was like, we are not doing this. Let's meet at another time when you are better prepared.
Yeah. I like the way you kind of summarize the Ugandan communities thing, but I guess it's not your place to lament, because you have emerged successful, I guess, in this kind of place to be able to show your work in a very dignified space as we are in right now. I think when you're speaking, I've been picking different things here and there. I think talking about contracts and which laws govern that contract, almost always is the other person, right?
Yes.
It's the laws of the UK or the laws of Germany or whatever, which we've kind of normalized because most times we are almost feeling like we're on a receiving end. So you do not actually read all clauses. If it's like a 20-page contract, you're like, where is the remuneration part? You read that. Word wise. You don't really care. But the thing that happens that over time, and we're talking about this very briefly with Ian during lunch, is that now when we do research, like right now we're doing the research of women artists from the 1960s, and it's appalling what was taken, in its entirety. These people just cleaned storage systems, they cleaned houses, and nothing is left whatsoever. And I'm like, how did we get there? And this is like, 60 years ago. But then Ian was like, but it's happening today. Now, as we speak, artwork is leaving this country in very undefined circumstances, mostly, to people who are living abroad, and we don't have anything in place to question that or to think of like a place where we can like have like a public collection where we can know that if I want a Subi, I could find it here by all means. If I want a Virunji, it's in this place. If I want a Pamela, it's somewhere, right? And I was telling, I think, still in that talk with Ian, I was like, and Sima, I was like, it's really, sometimes it feels like we are really on the dead end, because when you think about the story, it's thematic. So many things have to really fall in line for something instrumental to change. But then I think beyond that, us as creatives, also we could just like shift the mindset a bit, like not be in a hurry, in a rush. I think when you're beginning the talk, you talked about how you realize it wasn't a sprint, yes, and it's a marathon. And that for me is something very, very instrumental. Know that time is not going to end, that we can take small but meaningful steps. Yeah. Maybe they won't happen in our lifetime, but maybe someone who comes after us could find some evidence of that we try to prepare, that something stays. I don't know, however small, because when you find ourselves, there's nothing left, like it's so appalling, and it speaks so much about like the times, the structures in place today, but like even the future, like what's gonna be there 10 years from now, if we are like not reading contracts, we're not retaining any rights whatsoever, because as a creative, you inevitably have to have some rights for whatever you do, right? Mm-hmm. Even if it's bought, like you have to have some kind of, say, this work was taken to, I don't know, Frankfurt, but in 20 years I want to do a show and a Ugandan curator wants to do it, they can have it. These things you can actually dictate them, but because we have chosen, or we have been taught that we're always on the receiving end, like we just give away and we give completely and we don't leave any reservations whatsoever, and we find ourselves in constantly now, applying for visas and they are rejected to go see our own art. Like it's so complicated, and yet we can also have some kind of power in defining how our work, engages with the world and how some of it can be still accessible. So I think the stories of contracts is long and it's beyond us, I guess. Yeah. But it was good for you to just like speak briefly on it about that. I mean, oh, time. I don't know how much time we still have. Please tell us how much time.
We need to leave room for questions.
Okay, please let us know if we should dive into.
But I mean, I am the timekeeper. We're supposed to finish by 4. It's already 3:15.
Okay, so we should be.
Yeah, there are two questions that I've been asked, and Monique brought them to me. There was a question of pricing. Is that anything you guys have a challenge with? Pricing artworks? What are the challenges?
Also, another question about the time period to give maybe a gallery.
Yes. Yes.
How long?
Okay. So for me, I've been a bit flexible with this. If I trust you, I'll give you up to 2 years. If I trust you. If I have a working relationship with you. If I don't, 3 months. Because what happens is we are all makers and our bodies are instruments. Realistically speaking, I can make like up to 30 works a year. But I know people who are making 30 works a month or 30 works. There was a young gentleman from Zimbabwe that I was in residency with who produced like 3 artworks every night. I was like, how do you do it? The timing usually affects production. I'll give you an example. Last year I had 3 fairs, 2 residencies, 1 exhibition, 1 solo exhibition. All those took a certain amount of work from me. The solo exhibition took about 10 works, so it took about some certain amount of time producing the 10 works for that solo exhibition. The fair had 6 works. That also took some time. And at the residency, I produced 9 works. So in total, by the time I reached September, I was tired. Now, the timing helps you also recover your body. It's not just about how long the work. If the timing is short, it means that you have to find another gallery, so another art dealer to be focused on moving your work. If the timing is long, it also allows you to say, man, you still have 10 works. Give me energy to produce more. So it's also a negotiation tactic that you can use depending on your capacity to produce. For example, a person like me, I have a low capacity to produce. I don't produce a lot of work. At least that's ready to be seen by the public. When people come to my studio, they're like, that's a lot of work, but I'm like, it's still in production. So the finished works are fewer than the works that I'm currently working on, which is the way I work, because I work on 3 artworks at the same time, and because I easily get bored. So I work on this 3 days, put it away, work on the other one 3 days, put it away, and then keep switching them so they don't look alike. So if I'm working on a collection, I keep it together, so they share the same energy, but they're a bit different. So in timing, for example, if I allow you to have work for 2 years and you don't sell them as fast as I need to, it means that in 2 years I'm broke, because you have all my work, and I'm too busy to have available work to put in exhibitions, to put in fairs, to put in other places, because you're holding it. It's like packing 10 Ferraris in someone's garden. You just pack them there. So that person has to be of value to you. Which exhibitions are they taking you to? They may not necessarily sell, but they could be good group exhibitions with good peers, in good locations, in good institutions. They can have your work for as long as, because you know they're buying you certain leverage in ways that is bigger than just money.
Yeah.
And then there's a person who's a good salesperson. That's the person you give for short periods, so they move it and give it back to you, and you put it in another place. Money that, fuels you, runs you, especially if you're an emerging artist. You don't have resources. I was doing the math on what it means to be an independent artist, and I was like, for fuck's sake, how is anybody supposed to do this and flourish? You're a social media manager, content creator, grant writer, proposal writer, a strategist,
Studio assistant.
Artist. And if you were paying all those different people a salary, it adds up. It really does add up. And you are doing this on 0 resources. And you're not counting, there is the fatigue on your body, there is the fatigue on your brain, and there's the fatigue from all the other responsibilities. Because you're not just an artist, you're a daughter, you're an auntie, you're a mother, you're a sister, you're other things besides an artist, and also those relationships.
Don't forget the bad dreams.
Yes, they need to be maintained.
No, they don't need to be maintained. No, the burdens that come with the workload being too much.
Yes.
You begin to think about the incomplete tasks in your sleep.
Yes, the anxiety of not finishing work. And people, and how it works, for exhibitions that are happening today, they don't get started prepared today. Some take months, some take years. So imagine, say you're going to be at the Venice Biennale, big event, so you start making work for that, most likely 2 to 5 years, if you're a serious artist. If you're not, you can produce it in a night. It's fine. In 3 nights. Like a printer. There are people like that. I respect them. I am not one of those. But I'll give you an example. You're producing work for such a pinnacle event. like the Venice Biennale, you're going to focus all your energy on that. And you know that that work is going to be in circulation for 2 to 4 years before you even test a single coin from it.
Yeah. But Pam, I'm going to cut you short because of time. Do we have time for questions and answers?
Yes.
You asked the first question.
Yes, I did.
That was nice. You
The
asked
next
the
one.
audience.
What makes you feel safe and happy to create your work, apart from like financial needs, but like what makes you feel?
It heals me. Because because I have issues and I don't want to fight people, so I fight art. Yeah. Like when I started art, it was for therapy. I felt like I was losing it. I was working in corporate. I was a copywriter. Everything didn't work well. There was sexism, there was racism, there was sexual abuse. And I was supposed to keep quiet. It's a meritocracy, you know. And I was losing my mind. So I started to do art. And for me, one of the things that grounds me is because before it becomes anything else, before it becomes a product, before it becomes something to see, it is my therapy. So even if nobody was buying it, even if nobody was seeing it, even if nobody, I would still do it because it keeps me sane and alive. Like, that's where I pour my everything. And then I'm light enough to be a present sister, to be a present friend, to be a present, you know, to contribute. Because I've done the work of offloading into the artwork. So for me, it's my therapy.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So the pricing, when you talked about pricing, I'm a different kind of artist. You talked about content creation, but I believe everything falls right.
Yes, it does.
How do you know the brands, the fine line written in those contracts?
Yeah.
How do you manage to like gain your way to show them that, you know what, I could be small, I could be little, I could be starting out, but I'm worthwhile. You know, like how do you fight for your rights? Because some brands extort you, they hide in the money, the big sum, and yet they're making you do a lot of work in a very short period of time.
Let me try and answer this without building castles in the air. Two things. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know your worth. And you have to be willing to fight for that worth. It's a scary thing. Been there, done that, lost a few jobs, lost a few. But the thing is that they come back. Because my terms have been defined. And I have a history, a consistent history of delivering on saying I will deliver on it. Because before you earn the right to, I don't want to call it a right because it's not a right, but before you sit at a table and negotiate with confidence, you know the work that's going into. You know enough about the industry to know that if there was a different metric system, this is what it will cost. I am lucky. Aww. Sorry, distracted. I am lucky that I have the experience of having worked in corporate and sitting on the other side of the table and having to negotiate with artists. A lot of artists show up at the table not knowing their worth. If you're in doubt about your worth, find a negotiator.
Yeah.
Find a manager, find an art dealer, find a friend, find a curator. And say, listen, I'm in doubt about this thing. How much or what do you think? Or can you come and join me on the table, on the negotiating table? Without that, it's very difficult. Like, I don't see, because man, a capitalist and their money are hard to part. So if you're showing up, you have to show up at least knowledgeable of what you are negotiating for. I just made a breakdown. If you're a content creator, you also have a certain list of tasks that you have to do. probably have to hire your camera, hire the space, styling, wardrobe, all the things cost money. Filter them into the pricing and say, listen, if I was paying a stylist, I'll be paying them 2 hours to do this. If I was paying, and you're talking about different types of stylists. Stylists for the garments, stylists for the house and the set, all manner of stylists, just to give you a good 4 minutes of a good looking picture.
Hair, nails,
Hair, all that.
jewelry.
So you just factor that in. So when somebody says that's too expensive, you're like, before this product arrived at you, I've already paid this people.
And I think I could cut you short, just answer that in one sentence, because I think we don't have time. I think now, when I was younger, I was also in that rush, you know? You're doing like 20 jobs, and you want to do everything because you feel like you're from a place of scarcity. But now, counting nearly 10 years, I think the core of everything is just being true to yourself. Like, there's always something there that you know is for you or not for you. And even if they're offering you, I don't know, $1 million USD, but when you feel like you're convicted, like your wholesomeness is convicted, like just walk away. Because even if you take that job and you can't do it, someone else will do it eventually, somehow. Yeah. So I think for me, the mantra that I'm developing now, after a couple of years of like running after every horse, is like being true to myself. What's in it here, that's for me. That also stands for the person of Martha, and that helps me actually navigate the there's so many demands, as you know, like the people always want a piece of you, but without some small things in your mind, like you can easily get overwhelmed and rock bottom and exhaustion, and I don't know. You know, that's why in our career, like so many people sometimes even sadly pass away because we're exposed to so much anxiety. You constantly have to, you know, deliver. And it's not like you go and put a few matchboxes in one box and count 1,000 and then you go home. Like, it follows you. It accompanies you to your bed. Like, you sleep thinking about that speech. Like, it's really ingrained in your life. Like Ian was talking about earlier, like, when do you work? Like, we are constantly working. In how I greet Pamela, in how I give you a hug. Like, it's all in there. That if you do not allow yourself be true, you're really at the risk of like, burning down or.
Which brings me to a very thing. And I know you guys don't want to talk about it, but at some point you're going to have to talk about it. We have an addiction problem in the industry. That one, that's a conversation for another day, but in failing to manage all the different little things that are demanded of you, a lot of people have succumbed to addiction. I've buried like 2. Another question? A brighter one.
Oh, right. I don't know if this is necessarily brighter, but I would like to say that this person is my first exhibition, so I read about you online and I decided to come. When she sent me the email about this and getting to see you, I had a prior engagement, but I canceled all that to be here because I wanted to hear from you, having learned that you left corporate to pursue art. You say you're Uganda. And an issue that we have currently is, not even currently, even then, is I may want to pursue any creative endeavor, be it art or anything, outside the traditional doctor, lawyer, etc.
Engineer.
I would like to know, obviously I'm sure you're supported by your family, but for people that don't have that option, and again, we're still financially dependent on our parents, and if we choose to deviate from the path that they've set out for us, then
we'll cut you off.
Definitely cut you off.
Okay.
Big sigh.
I want to say this in the brightest way possible because I'm determined to spread joy. The only way I can answer this is I'm a firstborn daughter. So I was adultified very quickly. I became independent at 21. I moved out of the home at 21. And so I have been my own adult for a very, very long time. Now, how did I move from being an artist? I didn't have support of family. If anything, family expected me to support them whether I have a job or not.
Or not.
So what I chose to do was up to me, as long as I was supporting the family. So the practical things that I did, when I was in corporate, I started to make changes. When I wanted to do this exhibition in 2015, I was like, so what does that look like? I went, visited exhibition. So I did what I call, and I don't have another term for it, it's just market research. I did market research for like 2 years. What are the available spaces? Who are the available curators? Who are the artists in those spaces? How are artists surviving in this country? Who is buying the work? Where is the work? So I did that. It's unglamorous work, but I did it. So I understand the situation I was about to enter. When I was satisfied that I could thrive as an artist, I did my first residency. And then I started working half-time. I had a supportive boss. I told him, listen, dude, I can deliver your work in 4 days. Give me 3 days for my artwork. And feel free to pay me half. So I lost half of my salary to become an artist. And at that time, I was highly paid by those standards. So that half hurt a bit, but it's fine. I made time. And then when I finally quit the industry, I didn't just quit like that. I had 2 consultation clients. One was paying me a monthly retainer. And back on the thing of pricing, don't be afraid to charge highly. Because even when I was doing consultation work, I was charging highly. I was charging, which meant that even if I did one job, it would last me at least 3 months in income. Because I was charging highly, and that one job I did so well that the client wanted to remain my client because I did it well. So it's also understanding your body, your capacity, and what you can do well with the resources that you have. So for me, I'm very good at organizing, I'm good at doing workshops. As you can see, I can speak, or Zungu Jerudi, you know. I know those things and I use them appropriately, and they earned me a little bit of money. It wasn't a lot, you get $200 here, $300 here, but it paid the rent, you know. And the thing that I did before I did that, I calculated my monthly expenses. I said, how much do I need for rent? How much do I need for transport so I'm able to interact with people? How much do I need for food? I did all that math and I told myself, I need just this much per month. If I have it, I'm good. And that time I just needed $300 per month. That's what I needed, and it covered my rent and it covered my other things. I figured that out. I had my consultation clients on the side. So when I went full time in 2018, I had given myself at least 4 years of runway, of transitional runway, moving from a corporate job, moving into consultancy, and then finally. Not everybody has that. Some of us are coming straight out of, you know, and others are coming straight out of the university. I don't want to take that, but the only thing would be that whatever you're doing now is a skill set that you will use later. That's the only thing I can say, because teaching, consultancy, marketing, pitching, all that stuff I use now. Because I pitch for grants, I pitch for projects, but all these are learnings from my previous careers that I'm using. I talk to people, I hold seminars, and I get paid for that. All that comes from my teaching background. So whatever skills you're picking up now, just know that they're an arsenal in your toolbox to use later when you do evolve into a full-time artist. Like, that was the practical thing I did.
Now, I don't want to add on because I don't tell you. But, I mean, all that is great, yes. And I'm very grateful much that's great advice because your work can pick up. But now, the
So you carry a load.
The head of like scrap, basically, since my grandfather died. So I know what I want, and I'm blessed. I guess I have a very supportive mother, but the rest is not so much. And my mom isn't even here with me anymore, so there's that. But I know that if I did choose this, I'll probably lose pretty much almost everyone.
So the question I want to ask is losing them the only way?
I would like to.
You know what? Let's have this conversation offline. Yes. Because I think, yes, let's have this conversation offline. Yeah.
Sandra, when can we stop like no go beyond? Because now I'm a bit like one or more two questions. Okay. All right, so we have one or more two questions.
And you're just curious. How do you think about anxiety? Like the one you're not alone.
You're now a therapist, right? Yeah.
I'm a naturally anxious person. So, as an artist, it's worse. There are different modalities. Because I also think that the anxiety is not the same. Like, there's the anxiety, for example, of work not selling. There's that. There's the anxiety of an exhibition not being to the standard that you want it to be. There is that. There's the anxiety of even presenting yourself or even approaching a potential contact. Like, there are different anxieties, but there's one thing that I've learned in the last 2 years, that anxiety comes from a place of lack of knowledge. When you don't have enough knowledge about the thing that you're dealing with, you could be anxious. But when you get a bit more knowledge, so what I do, when I'm anxious, for example, I'm feeling anxious right now because I think time has gone. But how I'm responding to this anxiety by looking at all your faces and looking for one who's anxious to leave. Now, if there was one person, I'd be like, eh. If there were 5 people, I'd be like, yeah, we need to stop. So that is me alleviating my own anxiety by reading the room. If it was an anxiety about a piece of work or a subject matter, I just seek more knowledge because at least that exists. Then the things that I have no control over, I write them in a book and close it because I have zero control over it. The things that I have control over, it's not the easiest thing to do, but I'm telling you what I do. Like, I just increase the knowledge to reduce on the anxiety. So if the anxiety was 70%, I work towards reducing it to 30%. So it's never completely absent. It's just managed.
Thank you.
Baby Dada?
Anyone else has a question?
Yes, Monique.
How has this experience been for you since this is your first solo exhibition at home?
This exhibition has taught me so much. Right now, I'm going to add executive producer to my title. Hey, you guys, there's managing yourself and there's managing people. That's a completely different demon. You guys, because yourself, you're also indisciplined. You know, as artists, today you feel it, tomorrow. But you know, when you're the only person who suffers the consequences of your inaction, it's okay. But if your inaction leads to many people suffering, it is not okay. And that's another way of maintaining community. If we have 5 people and we've allocated tasks to each other, if you don't produce a task, you're not only affecting yourself, you're affecting 5 people. So if you don't have respect for that community and respecting their time, it will fall apart. So what I've learned, this experience, it has taught me how to get the best out of people with care, with honesty, you know, and also with accountability. Like when I say, listen, this is supposed to be done, it wasn't done, I fear confrontation naturally, but I'm getting better with it. Now I can pick up the phone and be like, listen, you're late, you didn't come, and then the issue ends there. That person has already been informed that this thing happened, and I don't hold on to it. There's no resentment, like it's been communicated. Which brings me, I think, to the last thing. Work on your communication skills. Those ones will take you far. So far. There are so many people who reach out to me, oh, Pam, I need help with this, I need this. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm available between this and this time, and I'll be present if you find me. I even make time, I sit properly waiting to be, you know, engaged in that time. And that person does not show up. So you wasted 2 of my hours, which I allocated to you out of my free will. Some of the people I work with are the people who tell you 30 minutes to a thing, like, listen, something has come up, I can't come. It's okay. Can we reschedule? Or they be like, listen, you know, I'm unable to do this. Like, just manage expectations. If you don't manage expectations, you cannot produce anything. Because producing an exhibition of this caliber, I was working with about 20 people. Some I know physically, some I don't. But I know that Vodo is working with 6 people. Julia was the curator of the exhibition. Unfortunately, she could not join us, but I'm hoping at some point I find a way to introduce her to you. Julia was working with 7 people, including a carpenter, a welder, an electrician. She doesn't speak Luganda. Macu. A carpenter, a welder, a what? I was working with other people. And then you're managing the carpenter, the welder. You're also making sure that the exhibition is well marketed, so you're reaching out to press and all these different people. So it's a game of managing the team, managing people's expectations. When we canceled the first thing of this exhibition, that night we had to send over 200 emails and SMSs just to tell people, listen, this is not happening, please don't show up. Listen, this is not happening, please don't show up. Because we knew the organization was not going to do the job of informing people. So we did it to manage people's expectations, because you need those smooth transitions from one place to another. Not every misfortune should turn into a wreck. If you can manage it, do yourself a favor and try to manage it. But I also have to say, me anticipating crisis comes from experience of managing crisis. I do have the experience of managing crisis. I do have PR experience, so I know how to talk about a bad thing in a good way. Like, those skills exist.
Okay, I feel like I should go on, but I think for time, I'm just going to quickly say a few things that I took out from your talk, Pam. I know I'm not going to be exhaustive because I won't give like a comprehensive summary, but the things that were very key to Pamela's talk was choosing your community, yeah? Then cushioning or cautioning your community through, receipts. We talked about receipts very metaphorically to mean, have things on paper, have things in writing. So when things backfire, you have something to always rely on. She also spoke a bit about, spelling contracts, having some agency therein. Not everything is a given. You can also demand that some provisions are put for you. She spoke about time and the process of time. And I think this is she didn't really hit on top of the nail, like time, but in talking about like how she began, from the residencies, through different residencies abroad, through, you know, dealing with, I don't know, curators, dealers, all sorts of people, trusting that process, which I think has been enduring throughout your work. Until now, it's still enduring. It's quite key. She spoke about, reaching out vis-a-vis being sought out. Because when she spoke about, for example, Trevor Mukoli, you know, it takes some kind of vigor and valor to know that, you know, something is lacking on me. How can I improve myself? So we have to just think about that, like reaching out. Not every time you're going to be invited, but how do you also seek out for people to support you and to be there for you? And I think what was also very inspiring, Pam, was like that also sometimes community breaks, you know, like not everything is idealistic. And when that happens, you should also should anticipate it, you should be able to be flexible and, you know, you said that not every crisis should end up in a wreck. Should end up in a wreck. You know, sometimes there can be a good ending, like in this particular scenario. So I'd like to thank you so much for making time and for being a part of this conversation with us. Thank you so much.
Now, the one thing we didn't do was introduce ourselves. I wish we could do that quickly, so at least we put a name to the face. Yes. You go first then.
Okay. Hi, I'm Julia Gyemant. My name is good, I'm sick. Kawaii has no meaning. But speaking of anxiety, I've made sense of my name. So because I sometimes feel unwell, I make a conscious effort to become good again. And that's why I do my work.
Thank you.
That was good. I actually have always wanted to like draw or put something on canvas, but then I fear people will laugh. But every time I saw you when you came to Makere University, it was the first time I saw you, and I've been following you ever since. Yeah. So when I was like, you know what, oh my God, when I saw it on TikTok, she has her on the shoulders like, I'm going to be there. So I didn't find you, but I found you. Yeah. To want to draw a lot, but I like drawing bodies. I can draw bodies. I don't know why, but I like to draw bodies.
Yes, my name is Chirisa Jackson, a video artist, mostly a painter, and currently with Mr. Bruno having a residence. Yeah, that's all.
Currently working with native sculpting.
What's your name? Fanny Boo.
Oh, daddy.
fan of Pamela Enyonu, and I love how, some words in English can mean different things. But I know that she's one person who knows what to get and how to get it herself. And when I saw that the show was not happening, I'm one of those people who be on social media and saying, oh, what's going on? And then I found like there could also be no better place for this work like here. And I know it's because of you trying to find spaces like this. So I'm highly inspired. I was definitely looking forward to this artist talk. And I invited my wife, and also, our interns who we are staying with at our home. I'm glad to meet you all.
Is in charge of the shop, so if anyone is interested in any of the items there, please reach her. I'm also really glad that Pam invited us as ERA to come and take part of this in this exhibition, to be a part of this exhibition. It's like she said, went through a roller coaster, but like Bruno says, when Pam says I'm going to do this, she makes a way to do it. And also I'm learning more and more that it's her background with the corporate world that has equipped her with so much to be able to handle a lot of the pressures that come in the visual art world. So I'm glad to meet you all. I'm also really glad that you made the time to be here. And we look forward to more interactions like this. You will talk more about how you acquire this particular space, how you go to come to this space, and also the prospects of how it can move forward. But yeah, maybe people can introduce themselves first. Yeah. Hi everyone. Hi. Rita. So many things. I'm a marketer, PRO, I'm an IT technician, I'm a cybersecurity analyst, so many things. And on top of that, I'm an artist. Wow. Yeah, how I came here is through the efforts and outputs of TikTok. I came up with this.
Like that's also another conversation.
More into the fashion space.
Hi everyone. I'm Usman Rogers, also known as Zibunga, but editor and sculptor. Currently I'm working with Mr. Kazungu, certain project worth of this environmental justice. So I'm also a makeup artist. Yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
God bless, embedded, and like you I became an artist. I think they adopted me. Because I did microfinance a time ago. My dream was to be a banker, and then along the way died. And We've, I eventually know. I know when work is nice, I know when work is I tell him, you take that piece, they will send you away. And he brings it back home. I tell him I told it was. So we have had, I know, when we came here some time back.
Yeah.
Came here to see the work. And at least we are proud of you. That you have kept on. So we've been, when today he told me we are going, I thought like move. So I was like, it's Pamela, okay, let's go. Yeah, but I'm glad we met also new people that we didn't know. I know many places that it takes me to every exhibition. So I apparently know many artists. And we work together at home with students. We run an intern space for students, especially who do art. So I'm always in charge of them, making sure they eat, they sleep well, all those things. And also making sure Ruganzu does not lose his mind as an artist. Yeah, we are glad to be here with you guys.
I love it so much.
Here?
We sang this song. We said, no, Pam said she likes it, so I thought she'd sing it. But there's that line that says, Swekoze sacholina, yeah, and I thought to emphasize that. My name is Subi. I am a visual and performing artist. Okay. I have the great honor, I keep saying, to work with this lovely madam on what we are here to do today. It is rather great. Oh, thank you so much. That's so cool. Wow. But I came for, I'm very interested in what inspires how we create and the people that actually experience the work that we create. And so community is very important. I think Pam talked about it today, but I thought to just emphasize it as I talk about myself, that today we are here. This is Pam's practice over a span of time. I mean, just like a choice to say, I'm going to do this thing, and you go ahead and do it and put your best foot forward, one step at a time. But within that, not forgetting that you belong somewhere and really letting those people in. I think that maybe it's also in line with like our political history. We've suffered a lot of trust, So we smile at each other, but we don't really let each other in. And so that really has crippled our practices, in that there's very little conversation between generations like now, 1960, all these amazing, recently at one of the era sessions we had to hear something, and she was saying, I was looking for a space like this, and this is a lady that literally shaped or paved the way for a lot of female artists, and because she had this really long stint in Nairobi, has a lot of her practice in that space, and similarly, a lot of the work is not work that's in her possession anymore. And we might also never really get to see it. And so conversation is the thing we have. And space is the thing we can create together. And that's a very personal decision. It's a very, you have power to let people in or to not. Yeah, so we should know that, and it's up to you to decide what to do. And then to also just emphasize that this is Iraq. It's a community of so many like-minded people. We have Vodo Arts today. I don't know.
Yes, unfortunately, MF is left, but we have Mr. Wamala over there.
Yes,
and
I
we have.
he will speak at some point.
Yes.
But a key thing is that when you say TikTok, that's a thing that Vodo Arts has taught us, like the power of community and really inviting people in. And how this exhibition has also been seen by so many people because of that.
Yes.
And I think that's a really powerful thing because, we must be aware that we don't create in seclusion. And that's, sometimes you don't want to say the word that it's a responsibility, because there's also the other side of making where you do break out, right? And you're showing internationally. And now you don't care about this one is who you have as food basket, you know? Yeah, but that is an intentional decision to let each other in, otherwise you can't build this trust. And you cannot then many times it helps that we don't make the same mistakes, yeah? Or allow for the same type of heart, yeah? So, yeah, I'm very interested about the publicness of things, and sometimes it's not just the public out there, but we ourselves do our own practices. So I'm glad that we have space to keep talking, to talk freely, sometimes to cry even, but also just so you know that you're not working alone. There is a community of people that have practiced before. We stand on their shoulders, and they're just practicing now, and they are very, very knowledgeable. But we must also be very wise to ask the right questions. We must allow ourselves to get out of our own cocoon, you know, and get out and meet other people and actually be present for these conversations, because they are made by you, you know. They are made by me, by you. That's how we try to sort of think about how we move forward, well and lovingly and truthfully and to the best of our ability.
It's going so much over.
I'm
anxious.
I'm very grateful for this conversation. It's been so nourishing.
Hello everyone. My name is Vivian Kamarunji. I am a writer, a feminist, a gardener. My background is in communications and journalism, but I work in project management now. I work with Pamela Enyonu, and I work at the Teacher Generations
First was invited.
I'm so happy to be here. My full name is Ateker. You can call me AF Peace.
Peace.
And I'm also a photographer, a videographer, an actress, a social worker. I do a lot of things.
Young people.
I'm looking forward to being one of the best female photographers. Though she's the best female photographer in the world, but I'm looking forward to being one of the best female photographers in the whole of Uganda.
No, someone else.
No way. So my name is Maria. I am primarily an animator and illustrator. You can follow me on the Only. It's on Instagram. Please check out my work. And this is my first time at an ERA event. I've actually never had a birthday, but that's because I don't move around a lot, not because ERA is not doing good stuff. It sounds like a very interesting initiative, and I've had a lot of good things. I'm happy to be here, happy to be a part of this process, part of the exploration of Pamela's work. It's really, really nice. I'm glad I can. It's great to meet some old faces, some old faces, and some new faces, and to make new acquaintances. Yeah.
Hello everyone. My name is Julia Gyemant. I'm an economist and intimidated with government somewhat. However, my artistic side, I'm one of those who excelled with fine art and didn't take it forward, so I live vicariously through some of your pieces of work. I love art, I like all things beautiful. Someone told me to come here because they know I love beautiful things. so they told me you love this, so I'm not disappointed. I came a bit late because, 85ers.
Yes.
They have to sneak out. So as far as they're concerned, I'm having a very long show to come. So, but it's beautiful to be here. I sing, I write music, I like interior design, I like architecture and stuff like that. So I find that art is very interesting. Because the architects keep calling you in, come and see if my stuff looks beautiful, my compound, my house, my life, my work. And so thanks. I am proud that this is the event and doing this.
Hi. My name is Joel. I think this is my third time. I'm a photographer. I'm an archivist. I've been with ERA since it started. Big ups to Mark. I was telling everyone that behind all of this is someone being massive. The next time I'm here, I love that production. I come pick up. Come pick up. And every time I come here, I meet new faces and old faces as well. Old. From different circles. And yeah, it's good to see all of us involved as artists, as humans. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julia Gyemant. I am a creative soul in a complex vessel, having a human experience. I am very blessed to be here. This is my second time here in Ateker. And, well, that's it. Thank you.
I forgot to mention one thing. Do you know that there is, I call peace an art. Peace is an art. And everyone who is around him and who has talked to him feels at peace. I know it and everyone says it. So that is another art. He is peace himself walking on earth.
Hi everyone, my name is Monique. I am the keeper of all these treasures. And I'm a graphic designer.
Hi.
So it doesn't belong. Hi guys. keeping our principle of community, giving platform